Blog Talk Radio.
Live from Fort Bragg's backyard, this is the show that put the 110 Nation on the map. There is only one nation, the 110 Nation, and you're listening to the 110 Nation Sports Show, covering each and every sport across the board. There is no sport too large or too little. It's time to talk the talk. Here we go. Here's the man, the founder, and your host, Mr. CJ Sports.
I want to welcome everybody to the 110 Nation Sports Show. I am your host, Mr. CJ Sports. Wow, that's not how I wanted to start off the show. You can follow us at 110. I don't know. I see it. We got to write all that. Welcome, everybody, to the 110 Nation Sports Show. I'm your host, Mr. CJ Sports. You can follow me at CJ Sports. You can follow the 110 Nation at 110 Nation. Check us out on Facebook, my personal fan page, Mr. CJ Sports, the 110 Nation fan page, 110 Nation Sports. Also, check out our site, www.the110nationsports.com. All the latest going on here at the 110 Nation. There we go. That's how it's supposed to be said. That's how it was done. Hump Day. Finally got here. This week has definitely been a long week. Just getting up at 3:30 in the morning every morning, getting old. Oh, Lord have mercy. Getting up at 3:30, being out the door by 4. Being up the door by 4 o'clock so I can walk to work and be at work by 5 a.m., be there for my 10-hour shift, and head back and then do all this stuff. I'm just very, very tired. Glad Hump Day is here. Last night of the week for the 110 Nation Sports Show, 3-hour edition. Glad to, I tell you what, the first 2 shows have been phenomenal. Like I said yesterday or whatever, I was worried whether or not we were going to have, it's a big jump. That's an extra 60 minutes of talking. And it wasn't like we added anything else or any extra guests to the show. We still had the same 2 or 3 that we normally do. So, I was kind of concerned how that was all going to play out this week, and very, very happy how this week has played out. Got to make sure that I thank Fit for Life. You guys can check them out on Facebook, Fit for Life. You can also go to our site, www.the110nationsports.com. Right here, I got a banner. Pretty banner for you guys. All you do is click on it, see if there's a location near you, 24/7, 365. Get your gym on. Great clean facilities, courtesy staff, all the equipment you need. All you got to do is check them out. That's Fit for Life. Snafu Season, the official sponsor of Racing with Big Sweats, Thursday night, 9 p.m. 100% all-natural, no preservative meat rub. Great stuff. Also got to thank I-95 Sports Network and Mile High Radio for rebroadcast, syndicating our shows. Thanks, but the numbers are just going through the roof. I thank each and every last one of you guys for tuning in tonight and every other night. Even though tonight's last night for the 110 Nation Sports Show this week, don't forget, we also got Racing with Big Sweat. If you don't know who Steve Big Sweat Billmeyer is, I tell you what, he's crewed and been part of some of the most phenomenal drivers. Tim Richmond, Jeff O'Neill, put Jimmy Johnson in his first late model, put Timothy Peters in his first ride as well. A lot of names he's been around. Thursday night, 9 o'clock, Racing with Big Sweat. Friday, we got Hot Laps with Stats, 8 p.m. Mike's joining me in the studio here in just a few minutes. He is the host of Hot Laps with Stats. And then Saturday, we got Happy Hour Garage kicking off at noon. So make sure you guys check that out. But yes, gotta thank everybody for tuning in. Gotta thank the new listeners. I had somebody actually come up to me today, and even though we have a we're hoping Shorty's going to make it off the show one time. She just found out that her kid's just like colored with a permanent Sharpie marker all over the carpet in the bedroom. So we might have to be calling 911 before the kids get murdered. But I ran into somebody. As big as our fan base is, I understand that there's billions of people on this planet. So even though we have a nice fan base and have quite a few listeners every month, the likelihood of the billions of people on this earth to run into and just to have the opportunity today to talk to somebody that is following and listening into the One Fan Nation. It was really cool to have that conversation today. So I got to thank everybody. Got to thank everybody that's gone over and liked us on Facebook. That number is steadily. It amazes me because I can remember back in like March, April, or whatever it was. I think like March, April, we hit a plateau. Like we had like 850 likes or something, and we could not get past that. It seemed like it was 850. I can't remember what the number was, but we were stuck there forever. And we ran a contest. I want to say it had been like 4 or 5 months that we've been stuck there. We ran a contest, and within a couple of weeks we hit the 1,000 mark. And I want to say it was the beginning of September. It seemed like I can't remember the exact date. And it has slowly grown. I think we're at 11,500 right now. And it just every day it's remarkable because I understood when we did the contest why we jumped up and we gained all these new listeners and new followers, but to see it steadily grow every day, that's one of the reasons why we're sitting here tonight doing a 3-hour show versus just doing 2-hour shows like we were doing for the longest time. With all the sports going on, sorry, everything keeps going off in this studio right now. With everything that's going on with sports and seeing the continued growth and all these great guests. I mean, we went into the night thinking we was going to have one guest, and we locked in another guest. And so I'm going to tell you guys about that here in a second. But I tell you what, the guest that we've had on the show tonight, we got Matt Smith, an HRA motorcycle driver. He's joining us at 8:30. He's the add-on. We got Hope Hornish joining us at 9:30. Of course, Mike's going to be in the studio. We got Shorty joining us in the studio. All the great guests. I tell you what, I just want to talk to you for 1 second before we get into all this tonight because we got some crazy stuff to talk about tonight. All the great guests. I can't ask for a better group of guests to come on the shows that we have and the time that is given to us. I mean, you guys got to realize, all those listening, we got these guys and ladies on the show for like 30 minutes at a pop. Like, that's phenomenal to me. Like, every sports show that I listen to, they're in and out 5 minutes at most of the time. We get blessed with like 30 minutes of these athletes' times. Like, how cool is that? And the fans, just the phenomenal, the fans, the networks, I-95, Mahi Radio, what they have done, and how they have helped us grow in the months that we've been part of that. And, of course, Snafu Seasoning helping us give out stuff to our listeners. And Fit for Life, helping ease the pocket a little bit for us here in the studio, be able to do more things. Like it's crazy, and it's just 3 hours, and it's been a blast. I'm going to, before I can go all sentimental and keep rambling on, I'm going to bring Mike into the studio. Mike will let us know what we got going on Friday night. We also got it scheduled. All you guys got to do is check it out here on Blog Talk Radio on our upcoming shows, and they'll be posted over on Facebook. I got them time to come out the next 2 days because I got the next 2 shows. Actually, I got the next 3 shows scheduled. I'm on top of things this week. But you can listen to what's going on Friday night, how to follow them, like them, all that nifty stuff. And we got some things to talk about for this first hour before we get into get our first guest on the show. So without any further delay, let's go ahead and get Mike in the studio. Mike, how you doing tonight?
How you doing, CJ? Very interesting day for me, and I was very pleased with what went on for my show and for the 110 Nation. Early this morning, I posted a bunch of articles, mostly to do with your Cleveland Indians and Cleveland in general. We'll get into that, I guess. But I'm going to hopefully have some bragging rights with Steve. His favorite Camping World truck driver is Timothy Peters. Obviously, you mentioned that he crew chief for him. And you'll know this name, CJ, because we had Kyle Soper on, who drives a tour modified at Riverhead. And that young man is moving up quickly. He is going to be driving or attempting to qualify this weekend in a truck at Martinsville. So I'll be rooting for him in that endeavor. And so Steve and I may have conflicting rooting interests this weekend with the truck race. But anyway, he will be on next week. I booked him at the same time when I spoke to him today, and he said when he gets back from Martinsville, he will be available next Friday to come on November the 4th. And for Friday night, we have 2 good guests, and going to be talking about 2 special events. Ann Young will return, the owner of Bronson Speedway down in Florida, and in addition to talking about her speedway and her ownership of that speedway and what's going on there, updating us from week 2 of this of Hot Laps with Stats. She was on week 2 of the program. In addition to that, she is involved with a tribute to Bob Fernan, who everybody on Long Island knows was the longtime announcer of Islip Speedway and currently Riverhead Raceway, and also does the PR. And those of you who listen to my show on Friday night knows he also takes care of the website and publicity and everything relating to Riverhead Raceway in terms of media. So, and that fine gentleman who's a friend of mine, I consider a friend, he is celebrating 40 years of being in auto racing on Long Island. So they are running a little event for him, and well-deserved, and she will be on talking about all those items, all those things. And in addition, another tribute, unfortunately, of a more negative note, there is a memorial race going to be held for Jay Trinka. Now, he was a young man who was basically involved with go-karts, I believe, and unfortunately passed away, and they have since every year run a memorial race for him. So Kyle Elwood is also involved in that, and Kyle has been on the show before also. He is a modified and a legend driver, and in addition, last year also ran late models. I believe he's not running the late model again, but he has in the past run modifieds and legends. And so he will be on talking about that event, and those are upcoming in October as well. So we'll be talking to both of them, CJ. It'll be Ann Young and Kyle Sopa both making a return trip, and then next week, Kyle Sopa, Kyle Elwood, and then next week, Kyle Sopa after he hopefully qualifies and does well in the Camping World Truck Race down in Martinsville this weekend.
I'm correct. Excuse me. I am correct. You're in Rhode Island right now, right?
Not Rhode Island. No, I'm in Georgia right now. Unfortunately, I have to get back up to Long Island. Yes.
Oh, okay, Long Island. There's a bunch of islands. All right, then let's go this route. Story coming out of Rhode Island that I know that you had to see today, and I'm dying because like this story is just beyond disbelief in my mind. At least 18 years old. I don't think an actual age has been confirmed. Basically, a grown adult was put into a 13 and 14-year-old's Little League football game before they shut it down. What could possibly be going through the coach's mind, and even this at least 18-year-old's mind, and going through their head, to think it's all right to be out there playing football against a bunch of preteen to very new teenage kids? Like, did you see this story?
No, I didn't. But I have to say, I haven't seen a picture of it or a picture of him. But is he by any chance like and I don't mean to be prejudiced when I say this, is he a little person or what? I mean, 18. No. You're not going to pass. You're not going to pass for a youth football player. I don't think. Or a pee-wee football player. I mean, unless you're.
Report comes out of Providence, Rhode Island. The founder of Rhode Island youth football team says its season is ending early after the coach put a man into a game against 13 and 14-year-old players. Capital City Buccaneers founder Alexandra Diaz says she had stepped away from the Sunday game in Situate. I don't know what that word is. When the coach let the young man believed to be at least 18 take part in several plays before getting kicked out. WJAR TV reports the Providence team had been losing when the incident occurred. Parents spotted the man suit up on the sideline. Diaz says the coach took full responsibility and has been fired. She says the varsity team has been stripped of the remainder of the season. The league's vice president tells WLNE-TV the decision has been made to remove the team indefinitely. I know we have comedians that their catchphrase is "you can't fix stupid," and I think that we've seen some really off-the-wall, bizarre, and even stupid things go on in sports. But I would have loved to been in that huddle when the and this at least 18-year-old adult thought this was, one, a bright idea, two, an idea that was not going to have any repercussions, and three, thought that they were actually going to get away with it. Now, if the picture that I saw was correct, it was a Hispanic nature, but he was a lot bigger than the rest of the kids. Like, it was obvious. Well, I'm going to take that back. I'm not going to say it's obvious, and this is the reason why I want to say it's not obvious. I coached probably 3 or 4 years ago as an assistant coach. I want to say it was 11 and 12-year-olds. And our team had enough players that they had to divide the team into two teams. And we had the Spring Lake, I don't know what the one team was, and I think we were the Tar Heels or something. And two of the players on the other Spring Lake team, they were about the same size as me. And if you don't know how big I am, I'm about 6 foot tall. Right now, about 275-ish. Not quite in the shape that I once was. And I think at a point in time I was more like 250, but I was benching 460 kind of figure person. I'm a pretty big guy, needless to say. Right now, about 275, 6 foot. People still ask me, do I still bounce? Do I still, do I play football? Had played football? I still have that type body frame. And I had a couple kids on the opposite team. We didn't get them on our team that were about my size. So I'm not going to say it was obvious because I've seen some really big kids, especially out there on the football field. There was a couple games that I really wanted to question the teams we played against because their kids. There was a couple of them that I was like, Ali, he should be playing football with us. But this dude also had a ponytail. Not that I'm saying that 13, 14-year-olds can't have long hair like that, but it was kind of obvious. He was too broad. He could have been tall, just a tall kid, but he was kind of too broad in the picture I saw. But nonetheless, I wish that I could have been in that huddle when this whole plan, when you got the opposition on the watching you on the other sideline, and you're getting dressed out there, putting this foot. And I'm wondering, obviously it could have been he had to be relatively close in somebody's side if he was able to put somebody's uniform on. But I would have loved to have been on the opposition watching this all go on, like what the hell is going on over there? But I'd have loved to have been in that huddle to know, the thought process and who came up with this idea and who thought this idea was actually a good idea. And did none of the other parents on that team, was skew like, I've had on the teams that I've been part of, even dating back to when I played, you always had parents that, there was always a couple that at least was on the straight, narrow, honest path. You might have some parents out there once you lean into the pitch and take a hit or, kind of ways to kind of cheat the game. But you had those few that, no, let's play it right, let's not that, even though it's part of the strategy. But, you always have those parents, especially 13, 14-year-olds that want their kids to learn to play the game right, learn the values, the morals, and everything else. So I'm wondering, where are those parents this particular Sunday afternoon that nobody even said, hey, coach, not do this, hey, let's cause a distraction, disruption, something like what was going on that sideline?
Well, I have two things with that, CJ. First, a comment to you. If you should have gotten in touch with me a little earlier, I could have gotten in touch with Jim Williams. He has all the media, and he's from Rhode Island, so that it'd be interesting to see from him what went on as far as TV and local situation, local media. But that aside, my question with that is not so much the team that, teams put in ringers. I'm wondering what went on with the opposition coach. That's what I mean. Maybe the kid, his build wasn't so obvious because if you're a coach of like 13, 14-year-old kids and an 18-year-old kid that's, grown regular, okay, or matured regularly, the other coach isn't going to say, hey, look, this guy looks, 18 to 20, that I question why the other coach didn't say anything, the opposition coach,
Mm-hmm.
and catch that, That's why I say, when I said about the picture, it wasn't that for those fans that don't know by now, that listen to the station all the time, and especially my show and any show that I'm on, I'm physically challenged, and so I wasn't making a comment, was he stunted growth or whatever. My point was, if an 18-year-old kid grows to, normal proportions, he shouldn't match up in any way, shape, or form with the body size of a 13-year-old, and should be so out of proportion as to be noticeable. That was my point in saying that, And that's that. Like you say, stranger things have happened in sports. and especially the youth sports when so-called adults get involved with the kids. In certain instances, not everybody, but certain instances, you know.
Due to weather concerns, they moved the World Series. I wonder how inconvenient that is. They moved the World Series up an hour due to weather concerns, with more than likely the stadium being sold out for these games. And it makes you wonder how difficult, one, is it to move everything forward, two, to make sure that all the fans that have tickets know, because, you know, the odds are, unless you're a diehard sports fan or listen to sports talk radio, you don't know, unless, I don't know, maybe they send out emails and text messages. I don't know how everybody purchases their ticket. But I just wonder how much, you know, can you imagine trying to get there at 8 o'clock and they're already getting ready to go, you know, the bottom of the first now. They'll probably be in the second or third, and you think you're showing up for the beginning of the game. But I wonder how difficult that was to move things forward. But they did move things forward. They moved it up an hour. Things not starting off the same way as they did last night, as the Cleveland Indians ended up scoring on a 3-run home run after we got off the show. It was 3-0. When we got off, they ended up winning 6-0. Pitcher last night set a new World Series record, 8 strikeouts in the first 3 innings. Previously held, I think, by 5 pitchers that had 7. But tonight, Chicago's already up 1-0 and going into now the bottom of the first. Hopefully, the Cleveland Indians will be able to match that and put some runs on the board in the bottom of here at the first. It was a night to remember for Cleveland, as like I said, the Cleveland Indians go up 1-0 in the World Series with a 6-0 win over the Chicago Cubs. But right next door, we watched the Cleveland Cavaliers go on to win by 29 points last night. LeBron James, his 43rd triple-double in his career, first one of the season, the first one period to have one this season, obviously in the first game. More interesting to me, though, is I really wasn't surprised that we beat the New York Knicks. This is the New York Knicks. But the next game that went on, and where we watched San Antonio beat the Golden State Warriors in Golden State by the same amount of points that Cleveland just won by last night, by 29 points. Golden State not looking so hot. Wonder if giving up all those players just to bring Kevin Durant in was really worth it.
Well, the thing that struck me, CJ, was with the power rankings, you're always talking about, you know, how could, when Durant was signed apparently at the end of the year, Golden State was somehow, I remember you saying you were surprised by it, somehow, like they didn't give, you know, and admittedly, you know, it was true that they ranked Golden State ahead of Cleveland, and I guess that stuck in Cleveland's craw a little bit all off season, and they came out and they did the job. Well, again, it is the Knicks, and I'll say that from the Knicks perspective, I didn't expect the Knicks to do anything. Basically, from what I know of the team the last couple of years, the Knicks are a 2-man team right now. Well, there's 3, but there's that guy from Greece that I can't say his name, Perricone, whatever. But anyway, they're a 3-man team when everybody's going well, with Carmelo Anthony and Derrick Rose, and I don't have a ton of confidence right now in Derrick Rose, not because, I mean, he's new. I'm not talking about picking up the plays and being a point guard. I'm talking about injury prone. And all the last couple of years he was in Chicago, if not all of them, he's done things like walk the ball up at half speed and turned an ankle or messed up his knee or something with his, you know, with injuries. And so from that perspective, I'm not too confident in what he can do. We'll see what happens. But it just struck me, and that's why I did post both stories on the 110 Nation page. Started with Cleveland, and then I said, on the other hand, Golden State lost to San Antonio. And again, here you go with the Spurs again. How many times are we going to discuss the Spurs? They're like the New England Patriots of basketball. They have, in this case, well, they had Duncan retire, but they still have Parker, they still have Ginobili, and these guys, they don't seem to, they age chronologically, but they don't seem to age as players. And they, Popovich plugs them in, right? And Popovich is the Belichick of basketball, and that's all you can say about that,
The Popovich system, that's why I never understood why Popovich got that fine for arresting his players, because it has prolonged their historic run of what they've been able to accomplish over there in San Antonio. It helped prolong the length of all their careers. I mean, how Tim Duncan was in the league for like 19 years. Him, Kobe, and Kevin Garnett had, all those years in the league, and it was different for each of them. Kobe put a lot more wear and tear on his body, but he was smaller, so he was able to do that. It wasn't, as strenuous as it was for, say, Kevin Garnett and Tim Duncan because of their size of their body. And I never liked that. I didn't like the fact that he got fined. I can understand a little bit more of the argument if the San Antonio Spurs put on a garbage team, but that particular game, the San Antonio Spurs took it down to like the last 30 seconds or so before the Miami Heat took the lead. It was in Miami. The fans that showed up for the most part were there to see LeBron James and company, not to see Tim Duncan and company. And so that's kind of why I have an issue with that. And I just have an issue because he was doing what was best for his team, not only that season, not only for the playoffs, but for their careers. And now, after he suffered and had to pay that fine, now we see that all the time. That last week or two before the finals last year, LeBron James spent quite a few games out of that roster, and they kept rotating players that were getting, nights off. So I don't like that. I wish the NBA would give him his money back, and we kind of erase as much history that we can. But I never understood that. I guess that's why, unlike a lot of the other departments out there, I didn't have an issue with what Matt did and Carl Edwards did, because I understand strategy. Not only are you helping out a teammate, but you're prolonging, things. Now you don't have to really worry about concussions, as we saw last night with Iman Shumpert and the Cleveland Cavaliers for Game 1, and now he's under concussion protocol. You don't have to worry about any, Kyle Busch breaking both his legs, before last season. There's things that they got to avoid, and they fulfilled their sponsorship obligations and was out there for the fans. And yes, they weren't competitive, but they were out there, and that's all they really needed to do for that particular race, and that's why I didn't have a problem with it.
Right. Now, that's strategy in another way, CJ. When you have team sports, you have the coach putting, dreaming up strategy or whatever, and in this way, I guess you could say, I've heard it said, too, when you think of the crew chief and the crew, that, racing is a team sport also, but I guess you could say the crew chief with strategy with racing, but even the driver having to execute it is like the players, in a team sport. But like you say, it's the same thing. It's just strategy in another sense. People don't look at it that way, but that's what it is. It's strategy in another sense.
Now, I don't know if I said the relation in this show at all. I know I said it earlier in the week. Miss Lee gave me information, and usually she's really good about staying on top of it. But Hope is Sam Hornish's niece, not his daughter. So I wanted to make sure that I clarified that error that was mentioned. I know at least fixing social media and fixing the show description right now to get that all fixed as well. But I just wanted to make sure that I corrected that. Cloud 9, I guess, was the word. Oh, we got one more thing, and Shorty's joining us at 7:45 instead of 8 o'clock since we had the add-on guest. And I was going to jump into something else. We'll talk about that later on. A NASCAR topic that I know NASCAR. A NASCAR topic that was rather interesting is that NASCAR made a rule change for 2017, and I can't believe this, but I actually seen fans that were upset that there's a limited amount of races that the Sprint Cup guys can run in and not be part of the chase. Like, I've actually seen posts where people are actually upset, which is remarkable to me. But for the NASCAR fans out there listening, NASCAR finally, decided to make a decision, as we talked about after we watched the chase move on, and we watched the Sprint Cup guys partake in the Xfinity Series, and while their chase is going on, and how that has complicated things, it really kind of made things not as interesting when it comes to the chase. The whole reason with the add to the chase, the Xfinity Series and the Truck Series, was to spice things up at the end of the year. It's worked very well for the Sprint Cup Series. It's helped bring more butts into this heat. It's helped build tension. It's helped build rivalries. It's helped bring, build a whole lot of things to the chase. Just there's a lot of excitement about the whole thing. And when you have the Sprint Cup guys out there and making it hard for the Xfinity Series guys or the Truck Series guys to win a race and need to win the race again in the next round, and watching the Sprint Cup guys just dominate the race and take those points, those positions, it just really didn't sit well with a lot of people. So NASCAR decided that Sprint Cup guys are allowed to partake in 10 races. That is their limit, and you have to be in NASCAR for at least, or you can't, if you have to be in NASCAR longer than 5 years. If it's under 5 years, then you get to partake in all the races, don't you?
Yeah, well, when I read what they did, I said, there's got to be somebody at NASCAR listening to our show, because they even took one step further that I don't believe. I mean, I've listened to your thoughts on it, and I know what you've said, but I think they took it even one rung further, CJ, because not only did they say they couldn't participate in the chase races, they said they couldn't participate in the race right before the chase, leading into the chase. So they took it even a step, or a minuscule, a millisecond, or a millis, whatever the measurement is, more than you in that sense. They took it to even the race before the chase. So because I said that I would have liked them not to be in it at all, but I understood why they did it, and so if they're going to do it, they're going to do it. I just eliminate the chase. So, I mean, yes, what I was willing to give up, they did more than, but what I would have wanted, no, they actually did less than, because like I said, to me, watching Kyle Busch partake on Saturday's activities, to me, is like watching Tom Brady go back and play for Michigan on Saturday. It's just something that shouldn't happen. That's just the way I feel about it. But I understand what the purpose is. Now, my next question, okay, now you get a maximum. If you have 5 years or more in the Sprint Cup Series, you're not allowed to partake in more than 10 races, and you're not allowed to race in the race before the chase and throughout the chase. Is that still good enough in your opinion? Because where 10 races don't sound like a lot, they run, I think, 26 regular season races and 7 chase races. I think is what the Xfinity Series is set up, if I'm not mistaken. Now, 10 races does not seem a lot, except, okay, now what you're going to have happen is you're going to have Joey Logano run 10 races, and you're going to have Brad Keselowski run 10 races. Now you've already taken up 20 of the races. Now all you're going to do is throw one more Penske guy in there. Well, what do you know? You got Ryan Blaney, who's Penske affiliated.
or we speaking of Hornish, we've seen Sam Hornish in these cars in the past. So now you open up the can of worms of, and we got to look more into the wording. I don't know if that team can only have 10 races. The way I read it is driver can only run in 10 races, which to me, the way I read that means Keselowski could take 10 of those races, Joey Logano could take 10 of those races, and then now you just got 5 more races, or, even if Keselowski, it don't seem like he's been running as many Xfinity Series races as of late. So let's say Joey Logano don't want to do 10, but let's say that, you get 7 or so out of another one, or 8, you get 7 or 8 out of another one, and up until that race before the chase date is 26 races. So you got 25 races. So you get a 10, an 8, and a 7, and you've got the whole season covered with just 3 drivers. I think that it needs to, I think that there's too much gray area there. I think that it needs to be worded that a team can only have 10 races, period. I don't know if I want to have a race, because now you're just going to have Joe Gibbs racing. You got 4 drivers over there, plus technically you got Martin Truex, plus, everything else. So now technically, you can have Matt Kenseth, Carl Edwards, Kyle Busch, Denny Hamlin, split 8 races each, and you've kind of took the whole season for Joe Gibbs racing. So, by technicalities, it's still kind of.
Well, the only thing I can think of, CJ, is they tweaked the Sprint Cup chase once, I think, already, at least once. So maybe they're going to work it this way for one season, see what the loopholes are, and then try and, tweak that again, or after a given period of time. That's the only thing I can think of. Or, maybe they figure even if they split the season among 3 drivers, they won't have enough points. They won't take enough points away from people or away from regulars, say if they finish second, or then I think, I'm wondering about someone like Eric Jones. Could he run the full schedule because he doesn't have 5 years, right?
Yes.
Jones not a 5-year person, so that only the people that have been in Sprint Cup for 5 years. Now, that's the other thing. How many people that are in Sprint Cup run Xfinity that have been in the Sprint Cup for 5 years? Logano, maybe. Obviously Busch. Who else? Not too many other people, I don't think, that run, or in fact, Keselowski, those 3 that I can think of offhand. That run.
Which ones that we have more than 5 years experience?
Right.
You got Junior gets in the car here and there. You got Casey Kane that gets here and there.
Yeah. Oh, that's true. Okay.
And she classified it. 5 years of Sprint Cup. How many years? And just to throw out the name again, and just coincidence, his niece come on the show, but Hornish, I don't know exactly how many years he's been in Sprint Cup. I'd have to look, but you're starting to flirt around with that. So if you got, and I wonder how that works, because Elliott Sadler would be another name. If you got those years of experience, how does that work? It's an exception because you're back to being an expensive driver and you're not in the Sprint Cup Series. I think the word might have been not worded the way it needed to be worded on it if they took that into consideration. I hadn't read the whole rule itself.
Right. But that's what I'm saying with loopholes. They'd have to sit down with some of this stuff and figure it out. To be honest with you, I don't know why I forgot Junior. We've talked about him so much, but as he was sitting there, and he said Casey, and I totally forgot Casey. That's how irrelevant that man has become. He just has not, I totally forgot Casey Kane at the moment, but I don't know. At least you got to give him credit for trying something. At least, listening to the fans. Good, bad, or indifferent, but they at least listen to them. Listen to what's out there.
Where I'm hearing NFL music in the background. I think we're getting to that time of day that we do our NFL picks. We got Shorty. We're getting ready to put in the studio. Going into this week, and I don't care that I am tied with Shorty. I don't care that I'm only 4-5 games ahead of Mike. I do care that I'm not nowhere near my 75% that I shoot for. In a lot of years I do hit. With that, I'm at a 57.6%. But I can get over that. All of those things I can get over. I can get over the fact that I've had some really bad weeks. I've seen, some really crazy stuff. I can't get over the fact that I have a and 1 as part of my record. That 53-39-1. There's no reason that we are in a professional sport, a grown men of men in one of the most physical sports, and we have a tie. That is going to continue to chat my rear until the season is over with. And the NFL definitely needs to fix that. But I'm sitting at 53-39-1. Shorty as well, 53-39-1. And Mike is taking up third in the overall season. We missed 1 week. We were out. I won't say we was out of town that weekend. That was a part of the weekend in Gallenberg. Mike's got 48-34-1 record with a 52.2%. And then the overall winning percentage, to include Shannon, since he missed quite a few weeks, he's only been with doing picks for 2 or 3 weeks at this point. He's got a 25-19-1 record with a 56.8%. I do have his picks, so when we go through them, I will be giving his picks. We got 45 minutes tonight before our first guest. So this will give us should give us plenty of time to be able to talk a little bit about the game, why we pick them anyway, instead of have to rush through. So let's go ahead and get Shorty in the studio. How you doing tonight, Shorty?
I don't think that's a question you should ask.
Okay, are your kids still alive, Shorty?
Huh?
I said, okay, are your kids still alive?
Yes. They're alive and they're in bed. Yeah.
The reason the kids are in bed at 4 to 8 is they decided to take a Sharpie marker and color the carpet.
No. It wasn't a Sharpie. No. I did find out that they did have a Sharpie though, and Elizabeth decided she wanted to write Peyton's name on his dresser. So not only was there marker in the carpet, but there was marker. They wrote all over the dresser. The dresser I can't get the stuff off. I didn't try, but it's permanent marker, I can tell. And they're very, very lucky that they used their washable, the Crayola markers on the carpet, because if they would have used that Sharpie, I would have killed them.
That I would have been reading in the media. Woman, bizarre woman kills kids in North Carolina, right? Whatever. Shannon won't be joining us tonight. He has some personal things to attend to. He's got some things going on in his personal that he needed to take some time away. He will be back for the next week's show. But like I said, I do have his picks. And the never-ending topic of the NFL and its hurt for the ratings. Tomorrow night's game is another one of those incidences that makes you wonder what the NFL was thinking. Even, when Tennessee was a decent team, Jacksonville's not been a good team in a long time. As a matter of fact, probably when they did the schedule, it was probably one of those seasons that they were 0 whatever, or 2 or 3 and whatever. So it's beyond me why on prime time, and the only game that you get to watch, you have the Jacksonville Jaguars going against the Tennessee Titans. That is not a matchup that, even on the best of years, anybody outside of Jacksonville and Tennessee actually want to watch. There's other games that, yes, I might not be a fan of, but yes, it's an interesting game, such as the game, the Sunday morning game, Washington and Cincinnati. I might not care about either one of those teams, but it's an interesting game. It's a game that would have my attention. And there's a handful of other ones that, as we talk about, we can name Seattle, New Orleans, New England and Buffalo, Oakland and Tampa. I mean, these are all, decent games, or games that, there's some interest there.
there's not an interest at all for Jacksonville and Tennessee. But that's where we start for Thursday night. Jacksonville 2-4, traveling to Tennessee to play the Titans, a 3-4 record. Neither of these teams are going to see the playoffs. I think there was a lot more hopes for Jacksonville with Blake Bortles and that young team and Robinson's receiver and what they really thought that they had. I think a lot of people were actually surprised on how bad Jacksonville actually is this year. I think a lot people were expecting a lot more. Tennessee, I'm sorry, Marcus Mariota is yet to prove anything to anybody. You're the Heisman Trophy winner, big whoop-de-doo, so you were voted basically the most popular football player in college football because you didn't win nothing. You didn't accomplish anything. Your one opportunity to claim the fame and prove yourself, you lost to the Ohio State Buckeyes in the playoffs in the national title game when the Buckeyes won the title 2 years ago. So you had your day in the sun. You didn't prove nothing. You've been in the NFL, ain't proved nothing. But with that being said, Jacksonville is yet to prove, to show that they're living up to any kind of expectations. I'm going to take Tennessee at home.
Yeah, I have to take Tennessee also. The thing that surprised me, CJ, just to underline what you said, a lot of people were expecting things of Jacksonville because I can remember during training camp, I was posting stories about Jacksonville that were written in SI and ESPN, the articles I get, that, Jacksonville was going to be the team this year. And this was in training camp. And then, so obviously they haven't performed the way people thought they would. And, Tennessee being at home, I like Tennessee.
I also have Tennessee.
Next game, and but
I was going to say I don't have reasons. I just pick.
Oh, what am I doing here?
So that's a secret. Okay, well, we'll see. Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to get all his written down so then I have to bounce back and forth. I got most of them written down. Next game on the list, the Sunday morning game, Washington and Cincinnati. I'm assuming that's over in New England as well. I don't know the exact destination. I really don't care where they're playing. It's on a neutral playing field either way. 9:30 play time. I don't know. Both these teams are kind of funny right now. I have a lot of Cincinnati fans that are sold on Cincinnati, and they posting left and right. Haters are going to hate this, and haters are going to hate that. And dude, you guys are 3-4. What are you talking about? And we're getting to be in the second half of the season. We're already 7 games in, week 8, or week 9, I guess at this point. Sorry, week 8. So we're getting to that point in time where 80 falls apart. So don't get too excited, Cincinnati fans. You're below 500, and you're getting on the part of the year that your team falls apart. I got Washington. I just think that they're in a better place, and they have a lot more at stake, and that this is a must-win in my book for Washington with Philadelphia playing the way they're playing, and, of course, Dallas only losing 1 game so far this year. I got Washington beating Cincinnati.
I'm going to take Cincinnati only because I picked Washington a couple of times this year, and they disappointed me. And I guess that's the reason they didn't play well. But I decided to take Cincinnati in this game because it is both in London, and they're both going to be, they can't say jet lag or anything. They're both going to be in the same situation, but I like Cincinnati in this game.
I'm going to take Washington. Cincinnati sucks.
Shannon picked Cincinnati as well. The next game is who would have thought? Arizona 3-1 and Carolina 1-5. Yes, your 2 representatives in the AFC Championship. A Carolina Panther team that was undefeated at that point in time. I want to say that Arizona only had like 3 losses maybe at that point, maybe 4, not many losses. And here we got a 3-1 and a 1-5 record. Just for the simple reason that I don't think Carolina sucks that bad. Yes, I believe that them having the easiest schedule possible made them look really good last year. But I don't think they are 1-5 bad. At some point, they got to prove that they're an actual football team instead of the doormat for the rest of the NFL. I think it's going to be this weekend. I think Cam Newton, Greg Olsen and company, they really find their rhythm. They find themselves. I'm going to take Carolina. I'm probably going to regret this. I'm going to take Carolina at home over the Arizona Cardinals.
I got to take Arizona. I like the coach, and I don't think he's going to let them rest on 6-6. I think he probably ran them ragged in practice, and they're probably going to be scared to lose. They lose 2 in a row. They're going to be, they're going to. I don't know what practice is going to be like next week, but I don't think they want to find out. I'll take Arizona in this game.
Yeah, I'm taking Arizona. Toronto sucks.
Well, I guess I'm all alone on this pick. Shannon picked Arizona as well. The next game on this list, and it's amazing because we watched Seattle not be able to score a touchdown in a game. We've watched Seattle come back in the last minute or two to win a game. We've watched Seattle tie a football game, and yet they're 4-1-1. I don't know how this is even possible with everything that this team has, gone up against and what we've seen. But they're 4-1-1. They're traveling to New Orleans to play the 2-4 Saints. I think that the Seattle Seahawks keep rolling on. They keep finding a way. No matter that Drew Brees is like the number 1 quarterback in the NFL right now, and it is throwing astronomical numbers. We say offenses win games and defenses win championships. We don't say nothing about quarterbacks winning games and quarterbacks winning championships. And Seattle has a complete team. New Orleans just has Drew Brees and a couple other whatnots. I'm going to take Seattle going into New Orleans and winning.
I'm going to take New Orleans in a surprise. I thought 2 or 3 times about this game, and I figured if the Saints don't win and they're at home against the Seattle Seahawks, who are not playing like Seattle in the past, then there's a bigger problem in New Orleans than even we know. And I'm going to take them in a surprise. The Saints in a surprise.
I'm going to take Seattle because I'm from Washington.
Not about Washington just because you said that. The next game on the list is Oakland and Tampa Bay. The Oakland Raiders, probably going to be the Las Vegas Raiders, but Oakland Raiders 5-2, Tampa Bay 3-3. Tampa Bay coming off an impressive win, but was it really impressive? You just beat up on one of the worst teams in the NFL, the 49ers. Oakland, 5-2, off a nice performance as well. I'm still all in. I am still all about some Oakland. I think that what we've seen as of late out of the Broncos, even though they won last week, they just played Houston. They are not. Yeah, defense is great, and defense is winning the games. Behind that rookie quarterback, I think that's what's going to hold them back this year. I think they're playoff bound, and I think they're a really good team, and they got something to build off with this quarterback. But I think this is the year that Oakland takes this division because that Oakland team is already complete with a veteran quarterback. Derek Carr's not been in the league that long, but compared to Denver Broncos quarterback, he's a veteran quarterback. He has done his time. He knows that system, and he's very impressive. I'm going to take Oakland in Tampa Bay.
And because it's Tampa Bay, I'm going to take Oakland. You've been trying to sell people on Oakland all year, and I haven't been sold. But I'm not too impressed with Tampa Bay either, so I'll take Oakland in this game.
I'm going to take Oakland as well. And I was really confused, like, half of the time you were talking, Jason, or CJ, because you were talking about the Broncos, and I was like, wait a minute. So are they playing the Broncos or are they playing Tampa Bay? Like, I was really confused.
Shannon picked Oakland as well, and I forgot he picked Seattle as well. The next game on the list is New England at Buffalo. I think that Tom Brady last week passed every number. Like he owns all the stats. Like that, isn't it what I saw? Like he surpassed like every record.
He's like the LeBron James of the NFL.
the GOAT, greatest of all time. And I hate leaving Tom Brady with that. I know it's not all Tom Brady. I know a lot of it's got to do with that Bill Belichick system. We've seen other quarterbacks do great in that system. They were 3-1 without Tom Brady. Not too many other teams, and I can't say no other team, because look at what Dallas is doing. They're 5-1, and they've not even had the starting quarterback at all, and they've dealt with a rookie quarterback. Period. There's not too many teams that can do what Tom Brady, what the New England Patriots did without their quarterback, and so I know a lot of what's gone on and why a lot of Tom Brady's numbers are what they are is because of that system. But like I say, week in and week out, I cannot bet against the Bill Belichick system. I don't care who it is. I will probably always, as long as Bill Belichick is there, I'll probably always pick the New England Patriots. I'm going to take the Patriots over the Buffalo Bills this weekend.
As much as it pains me, CJ, with the Jets in that division, I got to pick the Patriots.
I'm going to go with the Patriots. I don't have a reason this time, but...
Shannon went with the Patriots as well. Detroit and Houston. There's two quarterbacks that have the best percentages in the NFL since like week 7 of last year. Your Kirk Cousins has the best percentage. It was just short of 70%, like 69 point some odd percent. Best completion percentage in the NFL since like week 7, like one complete year. Number 2 quarterback with the best completion percentage was Matthew Stafford at 69.0%. The Detroit Lions, I think they're finding themselves. Are they Green Bay ready? No, I don't think they're that good. But they're starting to show that they're getting things turned back around and starting to look like that Detroit Lions team that we thought they were going to be probably about 3 or so years ago when this team first got together and they had Namaku Sue and they had Cliff Averill and they had that defense and Megatron and Stafford and everything, Pettigrew. They're starting to show that sign and show us that they're that team. Houston, you got a problem, and it's Brock Osweiler. You just found out that you had a quarterback that was a system that made him look good. He is the Matt Castle of a system, and I know Farmer's got to do it. He ain't got a lot of targets. You can't throw to DeAndre Hopkins all the time. I understand that offensive line is not protecting him the way he needs to be protected. You gave that up, Albert. You gave all that up, Brock. You decided the money was more important than being protected. You decided the money was more important than having multiple targets. You decided that the money was more important than having the number 1 defense that would help take the pressure off, that help keep you off the field, and help put you in a prime situation. For that, it's your fault that the Detroit Lions are going to win this week, and I have Detroit going into Houston and winning.
I like Detroit in that game also. I'm not sold on Houston, and with defense doing well is one thing. If what J.J. Watt and a lot of their defensive guys went down, I like Detroit.
I have Detroit too.
I don't know if I said it for Shannon. He had New England in the last game, and it's a sweep again. Got Detroit as well. This is my money game. This is the game that is probably going to divide me. I don't know. Both these teams suck, so who knows? It might be down the middle in the football pools. It might be down the middle on this. Who knows? You got the New York Jets, 2-5 New York Jets. You decide to bench Fitzpatrick. You put Geno Smith in. He can't make it a game. He gets hurt. You put Fitzpatrick back in. He doesn't calls out everybody underneath the sun in the Jets organization. Now you have you have a little friction going on. You have a team that's not that great. Decker, I think, is out for the season. You got players that are in trade block discussion. And then you got the 0-7 Cleveland Browns, who are not getting blown out. God, who is that? That is so loud. Hello?
What?
I said, who is that so loud?
I didn't hear anything.
I kept hearing a lot of noise, like someone's moving around.
Maybe that was me, since I didn't hear it.
I'm
sorry.
Putting up good games, just not able to put a complete game together, and even though they're staying competitively close, they're not winning no games. All that changes this weekend. I have the Cleveland Browns at home over the New York Jets for the game that I hope puts me over the top in this and in the football pool.
I got to get from this game. Not just because of the fan, but it is Cleveland, and they got to show me something too. And I like to get to this.
Stop moving around.
I'm not doing anything.
You're moving around because I muted you. I know it's you. I don't know what you're doing, but it's making a lot of noise.
Oh, it's the washer.
Aha.
You pause that washing machine till we're done. I think it's extremely loud.
All right, it's paused. My bad.
Much better.
Okay.
I was sitting outside for most of the time because of it. I just got tired of sitting outside. It's cold out there. So I came in to get some ice cream because I was cold.
Oh, the Cleveland Browns or the New York Jets?
I got the Jets.
Oh, yeah. I'm going with the Browns.
Shannon also went with the New York Jets.
Wow, you were right.
Next game, San Diego Chargers and the Denver Broncos. San Diego, they beat some impressive teams, and they look like they have finally turned the season around, but they're going against the number one defense, the Denver Broncos. 5-2, even with that rookie quarterback, they've been able to put, so far, a 7-game run together that's very impressive. I'm going to take, I think I'm probably going to regret this, and I think it's going to be a close game, and I think it's probably going to come down to the very end of this game, but I'm going to take Denver at home over the San Diego Chargers.
I like them, CJ. I've stuck with them all year because of the defense, even when the offense wasn't operating well. I got to stick with them.
I'm going with Denver.
Next game, the Green Bay Packers at Atlanta. Green Bay 4-2, Atlanta 4-3. Atlanta's starting to be that team once again that you can't rely on every single week. And I don't know, as soon as I got to mute you in between because I don't know what you're still doing, but you're still making a lot of noise. I'll unmute you, Shorty, when it's your turn to speak. But the Green Bay Packers, you hear them talk about Aaron Rodgers, and when he comes out and throws for a bunch of yards and high completion percentage and touchdowns and everything else. God, it's going to be a tough game either way that we go. Good God, this is interesting. I'm gonna. Oh wow, I didn't match that up. I didn't write that one down. I gotta write his down on his pick. He went with the Denver Broncos too. I ended up skipping a whole game on this. I don't know how I managed that. We'll go back to that in a second. I'm going to go. God, I'm gonna regret doing this, but I'm gonna go with the Atlanta Falcons at home.
I'm going to go with the other team, CJ. I got to go with the other team on this. Not Atlanta, Green Bay. I got to go with Aaron Rodgers.
Shorty, who you got?
What were the teams?
Atlanta and Green Bay.
Green Bay.
All right, I'm going lower on this one. Go back to the game that I missed. Kansas City 4-2, going to traveling to Indianapolis 3-4. I said I'm not picking Andrew Luck. I'm continuing not to pick Andrew Luck. I really don't have no other thing other than I'm just not picking the Indianapolis Colts and Andrew Luck. They let me down too many times. I'm going to take Kansas City on the road.
I would pick Kansas City if they were at home. this game, if Indy at home can't beat them, then there's really no hope for them. I got to pick them to come up with a surprise win week, and this is the week.
Am I unmuted?
Yeah.
I'm gonna go Kansas.
Obviously so. I heard you. Sunday night game. This ought to be a fun game too. Why couldn't the NFL make our Thursday night game be our Sunday night game be our Thursday night game? That would have made more sense. I could have got over that we had a sloppy Sunday night game because we don't have a great Thursday night game. We got to see some great games. I mean, San Diego, Denver, great game. Green Bay, Atlanta, great game. The Kansas City, Indianapolis game might not be a great game, but it should be an interesting game. The New England, Buffalo, because of the AFC East rivalry, great game. Seattle, New Orleans, depending on how New Orleans plays, could be a great game, but should be at least a good game. I don't fault the NFL, Arizona, and Carolina game just because that was both teams in the AFC or the NFC Championship. It should have been a great game. The Washington and Cincinnati game should be a great game to watch. The Tennessee-Jacksonville game, that should have been the Sunday night game. I could have got over, okay, we got to watch a bunch of great football. All right, the NFL screwed up. We got a sloppy game for Sunday night football versus having the Philadelphia Eagles 4-2 going against Dallas 5-1 be your Sunday night game. Get the week started off. Get the NFL started off on a high-rated game and carry the momentum into the weekend instead of trying to save the weekend by starting off so horribly bad. Philadelphia, Dallas, I'm sorry, until somebody shows me that these two rookies, Dak Prescott and Ezekiel Elliott, can be stopped and somebody could do something against his defense, I can't pick against Dallas, especially at home. I'm going to take the Cowboys to go 6-1 and send Philadelphia down into a tie with the Washington Redskins.
Yep, I got to pick the Cowboys too, CJ, for what we discussed earlier. You know, Prescott's not playing like a rookie.
Shorty, who do you got?
I'm taking Cowboys.
Shannon picked the Cowboys as well. And we wrap things up. See, I'm not even going to blame the NFL on this one either. We're going to wrap up. Who would have thought the Minnesota Vikings would be 5-1? Yeah, Chicago, we probably could have seen them 1-5. But this was probably supposed to be a matchup that consists of two teams just below 500. But in an NFC North rivalry, that's going to be a good matchup. I don't know if it's going to be quite so great of a matchup. Jay Cutler is clear to play. I don't know what the plans are. I've not seen what the plans are at this moment. And Hoyer could be still getting a start. I would say odds are Jay Cutler's clear to play. Jay Cutler's going to is clear to play, so he's going to play. Take that into consideration, even though they're playing in Soldier Field. The fact that Jay Cutler is playing, I got to go in the opposite direction, especially as great up until last weekend that Minnesota Vikings defense was playing. I'm going to take Minnesota going in Chicago and winning.
I can't pick Chicago just because I can't do it. And I got to go with Minnesota. And then early in the season, you wouldn't get me to pick Sam Bradford, but the way he's playing, he surprises me. I got to go with Minnesota in the 10.
I'm going with the Vikings.
So across the board, got a lot of games this weekend. They're going to be a wash. The Tennessee game, wash. Oakland game, a wash. New England game, wash. Detroit game, a wash. Denver game, a wash. Dallas and Minnesota. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of the games are going to wash. Basically, half this weekend's games, either we all win or we all lose. So either we're all going to be 7 or 7-0 in that part of the. Well, I'm not going to say that. I guess we all. Never mind. That was about stupid. We're all going to be. We're not going to catch each other. Put it that way on those 7 games. So it ought to be interesting this weekend. Looking forward to it. Looking forward to some great NFL. Very, very excited about another week here in the NFL. Shorty, I want to thank you. We did for 30 minutes. We did pretty good. I want to thank you for joining us tonight and giving your pick firsthand. It's been a while since we've actually had you on the show.
Yeah, which is not my fault because somebody didn't invite me.
Hopefully the schedule works out next week. We got to see. And maybe we'll get you back on next week and be able to have all four of us give our picks on the show next week.
All righty.
I'm sure.
Talk to you later.
Yes, ma'am. I'll be talking to the show, and we'll be talking to you later on.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye. Oh, goodness. How interesting. And there's another topic I want to jump into before. I didn't get all the details of it, but it's been headlines on my Facebook timeline quite a few times. Did you see that the story about the world poker? As much as I hate the fact that the poker is even on a sports channel, but those guys wanted to get into a fight or got into a fight over playing some Texas Hold'em and World of Poker, and one guy accusing the other guy of bullying him and everything else.
No, I didn't see that one. But you had told me, you would ask me last night to remind you about the Josh Brown thing, and that another thing came up today with the Josh Brown incident, the domestic violence incident. And the only thing that was left unsaid by me, you had said about the NFL and how they approached the domestic violence issue. I think in general, okay, and this has to go across the board, it's the same argument. I mean, first of all, whether, John Smith does it or, some famous athlete does it, it's still wrong. That's number one. Number two, when these athletes sign these contracts and become public figures and know they're going to be in the media, they obviously have to watch themselves in any kind of conduct, but especially this. Well, again, with the women being a significant amount of the fan base, a percentage of the fan base, the athletes can't complain about having, like you mentioned last night, CJ, that, if the guy down the street who's the manager of, the 7-Eleven or, you gave the example of your place, whatever, nobody knows about it. Well, you didn't sign up for $1 million contract, and you're not in the public eye. I mean, you have your customers that know you, okay, and we know you or know you as a person, to talk to you, but, your staff knows you, but you're not a public figure in the sense that an NFL player or an NBA player is. And that's what these guys don't grasp, a lot of them. And then when something like this happens, they say, well, why am I, singled out? Well, because you're in the media. You're in the public eye. I'm sorry, you're not in the media. You're in the public eye. And, you can't have it. You can't be famous one way and then not famous another. Okay, I'll
What I'm asking though is, are we holding athletes? And before we get into this whole argument, we both agree that domestic violence and spousal abuse and everything else that's a no-go. But are we holding our athletes to a different standard? And what I mean by is exactly the point that I brought up. If me and Shorty and myself, we got into the domestic issue, I'm not going to lose my job over it. I'm not going to be suspended 4 weeks over it, or nothing's going to happen. I understand I don't make millions of dollars. I represent that company. I'm not going to say I'm a milestone or an icon in that town, but if I go to Walmart tonight and I'm there for an hour, I'm probably going to have 10 to 15 different conversations because I have been in that town so long, and that's what I'm known for. And I understand I'm not an athlete, make millions of dollars, I'm not on national TV, but how can we expect the NFL to hold their employees to a certain standard that we don't expect our employers or other employers to hold their employees to that same standard. I mean, yes, I feel that, you know, if you get arrested for domestic violence, and regardless who you are, yeah, maybe you should get some kind of trouble. But that's not how the world works, and you know, it doesn't reflect most people's jobs. So my question really is, are we holding them to an unfair, you know, expectation or a standard that we don't expect us to be held to, because we don't expect to lose any jobs or get cut or anything else because of something like that?
I guess what I was trying to bring out, and I did it not wrong, but I didn't do it too clearly, is when an athlete, right or wrong, when an athlete signs or becomes on the pro level or even the college level, the way things are now with the media and the cable and everything else, you know, even college leagues have their network channels, SEC network or whatever. I think it's not that the fans hold them to the same or an increased standard. It's that they almost have to act that way. They have to know that they're going to be looked at, and rightly or wrongly, they're going to be analyzed more than, you know, Mr. CJ Sports, you know, or Mike Perricone. They're going to be looked at differently, and just whether fans hold them that way or not. That's a fact of what they're doing. That's a fact of the position they hold. And I'm not talking about quarterback or running back. I'm talking about being in the spotlight that they are, and they can accept it to certain things. And I guess what I was trying to say is, you can't accept it halfway and say, okay, when I do good, I want to be recognized, and when I do bad, I want you to ignore it. It doesn't work that way. If you're in the spotlight for something good, or for the way you play a game, okay, and how many times has it been said, you know, they get paid millions of dollars for playing a game, yes, but with that, they're in the spotlight, et cetera, and they forfeit, again, rightly or wrongly, they forfeit some of their privacy. And, you know, the price of that $1 million contract or more is a chunk, at least, of your privacy. And when you sign on that contract, you know that to a degree, okay? If you don't know it, when you go in as a rookie, they have all these guys that come into training camp and tell you what the situation is, or try to school you on it. And so it's not so much that the fans hold you to that, but the mere fact of position you hold, you have to expect. It can't be halfway. It can't be, like I said, on the positive side. You can't say, okay, I did something good. I'm all over the media and all over in the newspapers. But you know, if I abuse my wife or whatever, if I get into a car accident or have a drug problem, then I don't want it covered. It doesn't work that way, you know.
I look at it as, and I don't want anybody to mistake it, like I'm trying to argue for players not getting punished. So I don't take that the wrong way. I have no problem with the NFL punishing players. I just wish it was more consistent. If you guys decide back last year or whatever that, you know, after the Ray Rice thing, that was going to be 4 games, well, it should have been 4 games. Not Josh Brown gets only 1 game. That'd be the end of it.
Oh, that I agree with you.
I just want people to understand and realize what you're complaining about and what you're wanting the NFL to do is not what you hold your employer to, and that to me is very hypocritical, and I don't like that. You got to be accountable if you want the NFL to be accountable. And I think that's the part that bothers me. It's not that they're being punished, because I feel that, okay, Yeah, you're in the public eye, you're a professional, you paid millions of dollars, you're supposed to conduct yourself a certain way. I get all that, and even if not, the fact that you put your hands on a woman, yes, there should be punishment. But I feel that if we're going to hold players accountable and hold them to a certain standard, then it needs to be held across the board. And when you get these fans that get in these chat rooms or come on these shows or, write these pieces or publish this or do that, they go to running their mouth and talk about, that the NFL and should be punishing the players, and they beat their wives, this, that, and the other. But you turn around and your friend Bob beat his wife, and you stayed out of it or didn't do nothing, or have no problem with him still working with the same job with you or wherever job he's working, or you beat your wife, and your boss knows it, and you guys think it's a big joke at the office, or even if you don't, you're still working and you're not unemployed, suspended, or anything else. That's where things kind of I get kind of agitated with, because people expect these athletes to be held to a certain standard that they don't expect to be held to. And I'm sorry, a crime is a crime, and domestic violence is a crime, and what is right, and what is wrong, regardless if you make $1 a week or you make $1 million a week. No matter if you're, I make $100 a day or whatever. I don't know what I make. And LeBron James makes over $200,000 a day. I was trying to use an example. Regardless, anywhere in between, if it's wrong for LeBron James to be abusive to his wife and domestic violence and should get in trouble for it, not only by law but from his job, then me making $100 or whatever I make a day, I should be held to the same accountability. I should have the same standards, and my employer should hold me to the same standards.
Well, CJ, you can correct me if I'm wrong, and I don't want people out there and the fans to misunderstand me what I'm trying to say. Number one, I think if, John Smith down the block from you unfortunately does this, I think when someone calls the police officer, I think he is thrown in jail for a certain amount of time. So it's just that you don't read about John Smith, maybe. You know what I mean?
It's not so much that, it's the job thing. People expect the NFL to either ban these players, suspend these players for games, or indefinitely, or whatever the case may be. They go to jail. Yes, Joe Schmo down the road is going to go to jail for doing it. All of them are going to go to jail. Where it gets me is where fans and people outside of the sports, they expect these players to be suspended and are upset the NFL only does so much. Be thankful the NFL suspends one game or two games or any games. Because, it said we're not held to the same standard. What Josh Brown did or what Ray Rice did, if I would have done the same thing, what Ray Rice would have done, I guarantee you I would have not been asked to leave my job for 1 minute. Regardless if they knew about it or not, because most jobs don't get into personal business and get into what's going on in your home. And I think that, like I said, I have no problem with them doing it. I am glad that they're trying to police it, especially as violent of a sport as big as these guys are. I really am very sympathetic of what some of these women got to go through. But you also got to hold everybody to the same standard. As part of what is wrong with this world today is everybody feels that they're special and they do not apply to this rule or that rule or this expectation or that standard or whatever the case may be. I'm sorry, but if you out there and you're an NFL fan and you've been on this whole kick that, okay, Josh Brown should have been suspended for 4 games or Ray Rice should be banned, then if you decide that you're going to get in an issue and a fight with your wife, regardless what caused it, regardless what your state of mind is, then expect that you should be dealt the same way. Or your best friend, if he gets into this situation, or your brother or your father, or whatever the case may be, then don't go to his defense. Don't think it's stupid all of a sudden, and don't sugarcoat it. If you hold these professional athletes to a certain standard and expect their employer to do something, it's not like they're not being punished by the law. This is something totally different. Then you should expect your employer, your best friend's employer, whatever, to also have the same standard.
Yes, and as we're talking about it, CJ, something else went off in my head, and I've got to mention this because I posted this on the timeline, and on the 110 Nation pages for the fans. And I don't know, I remember not chuckling about it, but on the one hand, I'm posting the thing about Josh Brown and the same day, okay? And all of a sudden, I knew zip about this until I read the piece before I put it on the page. A former Indiana basketball player wrote a book. And I don't know why. My point about this is going to be that the same topics always come out at the same time. Whether we're talking about domestic violence or right and wrong or abuse by authority figures, by athletes or whatever. Bobby Knight, okay, who's been out of basketball. I think he might still be a commentator if he's even still alive.
Well, right. Let's hold on to this, the Indiana story. Let's hold that on until we get through our guests. We got our first guest that's just called in, and then we got to follow that up with Hope. We'll bump this to the last. Make a note of it. Write it down. We'll carry this conversation into the last 30 minutes of the show, so we'll wrap up with amongst a couple other topics. Our first guest that's joining us tonight was an add-on the last minute. So I'm going to apologize. A lot of this is going to be shooting from the hip, as I wasn't prepared to have someone else on the show. So I really I'm not going to say blindsided, but I really I know we're going to handle this like the professionals we are, but it was just an add-on at the last minute, and with everything going on right before the show, I didn't get into great detail. But we got Matt Smith joining us, motorcycle driver, NHRA. Very, very fascinating to me when we get these guys that ride the bikes. I've been on motorcycles. I don't own one personally. I also grew up in a house, though, that either you owned a Harley-Davidson or you didn't own anything. There was no ifs, ands, and buts in between, and so that's why I don't own one, or don't own a motorcycle, period, because that's the way I was raised, and I don't have the money to buy a Harley-Davidson. So that is something that I plan in the next 10 years to have. But the speeds, the adrenaline rush, like there's certain racing, I feel that's on a different level than other racing. And drag racing, the horsepower and what we've seen and the possibilities is crazy to me. Some of these cars that just poof, blow up. Just like, wow, how does anybody want to get in one of these cars? Then you take the whole outside of that car away, throw two wheels underneath you, and you go about the same speed. I'm sorry, I like protection all around me, and it's something that I know that I never could do, and I know from our last guest, it's over before you know it, and it's not as crazy as I'm probably visualizing it, but especially in my older age, maybe if I was back when I was younger, it would be a possibility. I'm more about my protection and taking my time and everything else. But it just fascinates me, the adrenaline rush that's got to go with this, and the mentality that you got to have to do this. Like this, you're talking a couple 100 miles an hour and a quarter of a mile with nothing on the outside of you other than your suit. Like that's really it, and a helmet. So this whole type of race, fascinating.
Yep.
I think the other thing that really fascinates me is kind of related is bikes. Is the whole dirt bike racing stuff where you're jumping mountains. I mean, I know it's not as dangerous, but you watch some of these guys do flips, especially the X Games stuff like this. Just that stuff it just blows my mind. I would have never imagined growing up doing half the stuff these guys do on snowmobiles or ski boards or skis or anything. Like they're just certain sports. It's just like, wow. Like, how did you ever? What counselor did you talk to that told you this is a career option. Like, I totally missed that day at school. But anyway, let's get our guest. I need to go back and talk to my counselor. Like, something's not right. I missed something somewhere. I don't know if younger. I grew up with 3-wheelers. I know they outlawed them. Grew up with 4-wheelers. We had dirt bikes. We had all that stuff. We did some fun stuff. We drove each other around the yard quite a few times. Matter of fact, and I'm going to get into right after this, I remember one year it snowed. We had a 3-wheeler and we had a plastic sled. I tell you what, our whole yard looked like one big dirt track by the time we was done, because we had that thing where we would whip around that 3-wheeler around the trees. So all you did was just tearing up the dirt, and it was snow and ice and everything else was wet. And so you came around that corner as hard as you could, and so your tires are spinning, so you're tearing up the yard, creating like this embankment with dirt, and someone's behind that just covered in mud, as it's spitting up on them as they swing around on the slide. And we just kept doing laps after laps, and it looked like our yard looked like a big dirt track when we was done with it. That stuff fascinated me, and I loved doing it growing up. Like I said, I must have just missed that day on career day, and my counselor really those pages in the book must have been stuck together, and she did open those pages to inform me these were some of my options growing up. But anyway, let's get Matt Smith on the show. How you doing tonight, Matt?
I'm doing good. How about y'all?
How you doing, Matt?
Great. Glad to have you on here. What we like to do before we jump into everything is give our athletes an opportunity to kind of promote themselves and throw out some things before we jump into this, so the fans and listeners get to know you, not only this year but moving forward in your career. It would be social media, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, whatever you have to use, team site, personal site, sponsors, anything you want to throw out there real quick. That way the listeners get to know you a little bit better.
Yeah, it's just Matt Smith Racing at Twitter, Matt Smith Racing at Instagram. It's Matt and Angie Smith at Facebook, and Victory Motorcycles, at Instagram, Facebook, and all that. But, you said you couldn't afford to buy a Harley. We don't want people to buy Harleys. We want people to buy Victory Motorcycles.
Wow, there you go. There's a plug for a sponsor if I've ever heard of one. We grew up, there was only 2 things in my father's garage. It was about 3 Harleys, and it was a really old Indian, and that was it. That was all you were allowed to have. It was either the old Indians or a Harley, and that was it. There was no other option. But like I also said, I missed this career option on talking to my counselor on career day. So I got to know, where does one get interested in racing bikes, and what got you into wanting to pursue this particular career, the rush of a couple 100 miles an hour and a quarter mile? What got all this started for you?
It all got started. I had a street bike when I graduated high school, and I just kept taking the local, 8-mile drag strip around home and racing it. And, eventually I put wheelie bars on it, and I kept going faster and faster and faster. And I said, this is what I want to do, And I worked at Pepsi for 8 years, driving a truck and all that, but I did the racing on the side. And finally I got good enough and I won enough races that I had some sponsors say, hey, why don't you, we'll throw some more money at you. Why don't you go try it full time? And 2004 is when I went professional and have not looked back since then. So I've had a good career since 2004.
Now, you said once you graduated, was there any racing growing up? Was there any interest, or is this just something that you just happened to come across a bike, or however the bike, worked out, and it just kind of carried from there?
No, my dad races cars, and he's a 10-time world champion in NHRA and IHRA. So he's been very successful, and I've always watched him win races and get the glamour and the TV, and I'm like, I want to be just like my dad. But I just went with the motorcycles instead of the cars because I'm a smaller person, And to be small, you have an advantage on a motorcycle.
Now, has he ever tried to talk you into getting into the cars? Is that something even you've ever thought about, or if had the opportunity, you would at least humor the idea of testing it, or is motorcycles where your heart's at and that's all you want to do?
Motorcycles is where my heart's at, but, I have drove a car. I've won some races in a car.
Okay.
I was one of the quickest and fastest. I held the record for 2.5 years, the quickest and fastest pro mod car in the world. set the record over in Qatar, which is in the Middle East, driving a car. So I've been very successful at everything I've done the last 10, 12 years.
And in 2004, is that when you joined the NHRA, or is that just when you got your professional start?
Nope, that's when I joined the NHRA and started there professionally. And like I said, been racing every race since then, every year, and haven't looked back. I don't know what else I would do besides maybe go back and drive a truck, because I'm a good truck driver, but that's about the extent of what I would do, is either race motorcycles or drive a truck.
What's it like being in the NHRA and doing the traveling? We've seen drivers make a career out of it, and it's like a brotherhood. We see it all the time. And, when you watch the Indy and the IRL series and the NASCAR series, what's the experience been like with the NHRA? It's something that a lot of people don't talk about, and even though it's on TV, I don't think it gets the visibility that it really needs to get. I got the opportunity, I can't remember when you guys the NHRA came to Carolina, but I was there for the Carolina when you guys were in Charlotte. And, it blew my mind what it was like out there. But what's the experience been like with the NHRA, and what's it been like to be able to have this long of a career so far with doing what you're doing?
Behind the scenes, we're all family here. Anybody and everybody would help somebody. If they needed a part or needed help doing something, we would all help each other out. That's just kind of our mentality as a group. But when you get up on the line, it's, you kind of hate the other person. You want to be the first to the finish line. You want to win. And you're right. We haven't got the exposure that we probably should over the last 4 or 5 years. But we got on Fox this year in FS1, and that has really grown our sport a lot this year. Our TV ratings are up tremendously, over 2/3 higher than the previous 2 or 3 years combined. So really made a big push this year with Fox being on board and FS1. And, I think the biggest reason why we're not live all the time is just because of the oil downs that the Top Fuel and Funny cars, create, because a lot of people don't want to see that, on live TV. They want to see racing.
Yeah. How hard was it to work up the nerve that first time that you started clocking these speeds? Like, I can imagine running down doing 75, 100 miles an hour, no big deal. But when you got on that motorcycle, that time that you knew that you're going to be clocking a couple 100 miles an hour, what do you got to talk yourself into that? Is it a big adrenaline rush for you? And has there ever been a point like you got done, it was like, wow, that was a little fast for even my liking?
No, when I started, we just raced 8th mile stuff, and, you'd run 105, 106 mile an hour in 8th mile, and, that was fast back then when I got started. But over the last 5 or 6 years, the motorcycles have gone from 191 or 192 mile an hour. We're all the way up to 199 mile an hour now. So nobody's broke the 200 mile an hour barrier yet on pro stock motorcycle. But in a car, I've been 245 mile an hour. So, it's a rush, and it's something that, over time you get used to it. And just like now, I can jump on the bike and go 198 mile an hour, and it's like me driving 60 mile an hour in my car back home, on the highway. So it's just something you get used to, and it's just somebody's got to do it. That's what everybody goes, well, why do you do it? I said, well, somebody's got to do it, so I got to be the chosen one that gets to do this.
Matt, I have a question. CJ and I both are race fans, and the thing that I think impresses me the most, the fact that you can get on a bike to begin with because I'm in a wheelchair, but that aside, the fact of a race car and everything, you're protected with the roll cage and all the safety features, and on a bike, I think the thing that it, is doubly impressive or triply impressive is the fact that you, like CJ said, you have nothing around you except your own body. And is it something you have to mentally block out every time you you do this? Like you got to almost have tunnel vision and not I guess you have to know what's around you in a certain sense, but you have to block it out that you're not, that it's just you and your body. I don't know how else to put it. There's nothing else around you in the sense of protection.
Yeah, basically the rider, we're in control. We've been doing it long enough that we're kind of in control, and we're ahead of the bike as we go down the racetrack. So if it starts going one way or the other, or the wind, we have a big side wind, it starts pushing to the wall, then we'll let out. We won't fight it enough to where we take a chance on, wrecking. Now, if a tire blows out or something like that, then, we might go down on the bike and But the one thing we have, leather suits, and Vanson makes our suits, and they're skid-proof to 210 mile an hour. And really, if you go down, you're not going to grind through that suit. All the way up to 210 mile an hour is what we've been told. I've never had to experience one. I've seen people, and it didn't go through their suits, so they just get some road rash or, a little – it's not really road rash because it doesn't go through, but it's just – I guess it gets hot and it just kind of burns their skin a little bit. But the biggest thing is you just go with the flow. If you go down, don't try to stop yourself. Just roll and come to a stop. When you try to put your hands down or try to brace up and stop yourself, that's when you'll break something. Just kind of roll with it and slide and do your deal.
Yeah, okay.
And I'm surprised Mike didn't ask this. Usually this is his question. You've been around the NHL for 12 years, so you've got to experience quite a few tracks and got to revisit quite a few tracks. Your preference, what track is the track that you prefer to, or maybe the track that you feel that you own? Like, for example, Jimmy Johnson in Charlotte. For the longest time, that was Jimmy's house. There weren't too many races that Jimmy Johnson was not going to win in Charlotte. Do you have any tracks that you have a preference for? You circle that on the calendar. Do you feel more confident, or even you feel that you own that track, and every time you go, there's a good chance you're going to find yourself winning?
Well, we've always done really good at Charlotte. Been very successful at Charlotte. The first time Charlotte come about for the motorcycles, I won the first race. And it's kind of my home track. We do a lot of testing there. And I love the track. I think I've only won there once, but I've been to a bunch of finals and had a bunch of number one qualifiers. But, just really like the track. Being in my backyard, we're only 45 minutes from there. And like I said, love North Carolina, and that's probably my favorite track to go to.
Now, on the opposite is that Totem Pool. What track that is on the schedule when you already know, when you see the schedule, that this is a weekend that you're not going to care for? It might not be nothing to do with that track. Maybe it's just bad luck at that track. Maybe you just don't like the grip on that track. Whatever the case may be, what track on your schedule every year that you just kind of look at and like, God, I just want this weekend to get over with?
I've never been really good at Atlanta. The Atlanta track, I've only been to one final, and I've never ran good there. It's kind of the second race or third race of our year, and I've just never been successful there. So that would be one track that I wouldn't mind them putting off our schedule.
No, I remember when right before you guys came into Charlotte, we had another gentleman on, and the thing with drag strips that I always think about is when I see it on TV, because there's nothing around us right now, around where I grew up. But the thing I remember, or I always hear on TV, is it's so much different in Colorado, in Denver, when you guys run. What do you do to prepare for like the different air and the different elevation? Do you do anything?
Denver, we're a mile up in the air, so corrected altitude normally is right around 10,000 feet. Normally it's like 95 to 9,100 feet when we run there. And basically what we do is we'll put a half a degree or a degree of timing in it, and we'll put a lot of gear in the bike. So we normally go up 3 teeth on the rear, and we leave about 1,500 RPM higher, when we put on the two-step. And you just run slower, and that's just what we all have to. We all have to deal with it because these bikes are normally aspirated. We don't have no nitrous or no turbo. we run SR18 Sunoco racing gas, so it's not oxygenated, so it's just like a 116 octane gas. So that's about what we do when we go up there.
Right, and as a person, what do you do as an athlete? Do you to get used to the elevation? As far as I know, like basketball players and team sports are always saying the same thing, that it's, you take precautions or whatever. What kind of precautions do you take as a person, as an athlete?
A lot of times we'll take a little oxygen tank up there with us, and if you start feel lightheaded, we'll take sit down and take a couple of deep breaths of oxygen. That'll help you out. But the biggest thing is up there, you have to stay hydrated. So you just drink plenty of water. And normally when we're up there, it's about 95 to 100 degrees. So it's always a hot race that we go to there, and you just drink a lot of water.
Okay. I would assume so, yes.
12 years in the NHRA, and of course you did some racing before then. Obviously, having the world record for a couple of years is a task hard to beat. Is there any accomplishments that you've had that you hold higher than having the world record, and what are some of your bigger accomplishments that you hold maybe up on the upper shelves on your trophy shelf from your career so far?
Well, I've won Indy before, so that's the biggest race of the year. So I've won that. I've got 2 world championships, one in 2007 and one in 2013, and I've won 18 races in pro stock motorcycles. So I've accomplished about everything that I've want to accomplish. There's only 2 or 3 tracks on the schedule that I haven't won a race at, and Gainesville is one of them. I've been to the finals there twice, but I've never won the very first race of the year, when our season starts. So that's a goal that I want to do, try to accomplish next year. But besides that, those Indy and the 2 championships probably my biggest accomplishments, year to date.
How was the 2016 season for you?
2016 season, we have struggled this year. We've had a lot of electrical problems. We've had a lot of parts breakage. Victory come on board with us last year in 2015, and for our first year out with the Victory body style and all that, we did pretty good. We finished 4th in the world, made the top 10 and finished 4th. This year we finished in the top 10. We've made the top 10, we made the countdown, and we're currently 9th, There's a possibility we can get to 7th or 6th, but we're not going to have as good a year as we did last year, but we're already working on stuff for next year, and we're getting new bodies for the Victory bikes next year, and Victory, we've been working on the motor all year long. So that's kind of another reason why we haven't done as good as we have this year, because Victory's coming out with their own pro stock motorcycle motor, and we've been developing it and doing a lot of testing with it. So we've kind of dedicated the deal for next year.
Is there a big difference in manufacturers? Like, when we watch NASCAR, and I hate referencing back to a different race, but that's just what I know more of. You kind of can switch body frame or the outside of the car, and there's really not much of a difference. All those cars are made to fit one template, and and the only thing really different, other than a little bit of the nose, is basically the Chevy, the Ford, or the Toyota logo. That's really all the difference you see, and you kind of see that in most of the racing. When it comes to the motorcycles, is there a big difference from the different makes and brands, or is it kind of similar, just all of them are kind of the same, just very minor differences?
No, it's a big difference. Suzuki probably has the most aerodynamic package. They have a full fairing, and the bike looks like a purebred street bike, very aerodynamic. The Buell is probably the second most aerodynamic bike out there, and then the Harley and the Victories are, basically the least aerodynamic bike. The biggest thing is why Harley's so successful. They've been in the sport for 15 years with the 2 riders they have, and they pump a lot of money into that program, and they just have a lot of backing. So it's about like anything else. I mean, if you have a big backer and somebody puts a lot of money into your deal, you're going to be successful no matter what. So, but yeah, definitely, Harley and Suzuki probably have the biggest advantage in our sport.
Now talking about money, is sponsor as big as, say, IRL and NASCAR when it comes to your guys' sport? I mean, I understand that in all racing that sponsorship is a big deal, but is it as big? When we talk about NASCAR, we always talk about it's a sponsor-driven sport. Is NHR the same way? Is it a sponsor-driven sport, or is it not so extreme as like NASCAR?
No, it's a sponsor-driven sport. It's nowhere near extreme as NASCAR. I mean, like your top NASCAR teams are in the $40 and $50 million range, a year. You take a top fuel and funny car team, their top deal is probably $4 or $5 million a year. The Harleys get $1.2 million or $1.3 million a year. So, we're way less than that. Your average pro stock motorcycle probably spends $200,000 to $250,000 a year. So to race the year. So, the motorcycles are very cost efficient to run, but we're nowhere near what NASCAR and all that is.
Gotcha. I will take a second and kind of step away from the track for a moment. I like letting the fans know a little bit more about the athletes. Everybody just seems that these athletes, they do this and they do that, and just like they don't have normal lives. So I like to take a moment and kind of let people know you guys do have a normal life outside of racing in the celebrity world, I guess. Middle of the week. Hey, got nothing going on. It's a Wednesday evening. You're not stuck sitting here talking to us. You get to do whatever you want. What do you do on an evening like this? Maybe you want an opportunity to kind of put, regardless of win, draw, loss, whatever the situation was the weekend before, you kind of want to put that behind you. You're not quite ready to start thinking about preparing for next weekend. Just kind of want a couple hours and evening to yourself to kind of unwind, recharge the batteries, and get focused. What do you do?
Well, I'll do one of two things. Normally, we'll either go ride motorcycles and just, go right up in the mountains. We're right there at the Blue Ridge Parkway, so it's a nice ride just to ride through, up and down the parkway. Or we'll go out, me and my wife, we got a little bass boat, and we'll go fishing. She loves to fish. I love to fish, and it's good to get away and just, like you said, even if I'm riding a bike, I don't have to worry about a cell phone. And when I get on the water with the boat, I cut the cell phone off and I just go fishing.
Now, the kind of same scenario, you got a weekend. Say Friday night rolls around, team says, look, we don't want to see you back till Monday. You guys can go away, do whatever you want. It'd be family, it'd be friends, but it's a whole weekend that you get to do whatever. You get an opportunity to get away from the weekend. What do you try to go do?
Well, a lot of times, me and my wife, if we have a weekend off, we'll load the motorhome up with a little trailer behind it, and we go down the beach. We normally go stay at Ocean Lakes campground at Myrtle Beach, and we take our bikes and we'll ride up and down and go lay in the water. And we got two little dogs that go with us everywhere. They're little Dachshunds, and that's about our getaway. We love to just go to the water or ride motorcycles or play with our dogs. That's about what we do.
We happen to snatch your phone. We turn on either iHeartRadio, Pandora, whatever outlet you use to grab music. What kind of music would we find you listen to most recently?
I like the alternative. I'm a mix between, I like the rock and roll back in the, 90s and 80s, or I like the kind of some of the rap stuff that's going on, now. But just kind of an alternative guy, I'm not the, I don't like country music, but I like I guess you'd call it the alternative rock.
Gotcha. And does your wife travel with you to all the races? Is she pretty active? I don't know, after 12 years of doing this, I don't know, she probably got burned out of doing all this traveling from weekend to week out, but does she go to any of these tracks? Does she go regularly? Does she just go to certain tracks? How active is she with your career?
Well, she goes everywhere with us because she rides a motorcycle also in NHRA. So we're the only husband and wife team out here in the professional circuit that does it. And, so she goes everywhere with us.
And how long has she been in the sport?
Since 2008.
Is that how y'all met?
We met back in a different league, probably back in 2001, 2000, and kind of in 2007 when I won the championship. We were running 2 bikes at a time, and the other person on my bike quit after 2007, and I asked her to come and ride my bike, and she came and rode my second bike, and I guess that's how the story ends.
Yeah, see, that's why I take a minute to kind of go a little personal. That not everybody gets to know these things, and it's really cool to kind of, like I said, I don't know why. And I'm the same way. When I was a track, I've been to 30, 40 days on different events and racing events alone, not counting everything else I've been to, and I still kind of hold all these athletes to this high, like, oh my God, this is so and so, or this, that, and the other. And so I'm kind of in the same boat, even though I've been doing this for almost 6 years. But, it's just really cool to be able to listen to people's life stories and what they do in their normal life outside of their career, and kind of brings more of a perspective that, athletes hold normal lives, and you just kind of visualize, I don't know. I don't know why we do that. Matt, it was really cool, and it's amazing how quick 30 minutes goes by. It was really cool to be able to meet you and get to know a little bit about you. Like I said, it was kind of I got a message across Facebook a little bit before the show saying we got to add on, and I tried to do a little bit of Googling as I was doing the show, and I didn't. Of course, I didn't do a lot of deep search. I didn't see none, so it was kind of shooting from the hip of everything. But 2017, I'm assuming you're going to be back on the track, and we're expecting to have a good season next year, right?
Yes, sir. We're going to debut a new body for victory, and hopefully we're going to try to win some races and take home a championship for them.
Definitely want to wish you luck on the rest of the countdown. Hopefully you get to advance at least a couple more positions and make the sponsors happy, and get to work all the kinks out and don't have any of the issues that you guys have had so far this year. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing you out there in 2017. I have a feeling that I try to make a point of all the drivers and all the athletes we have on to meet them at different venues, and so I'm assuming next year when Charlotte rolls around, we'll definitely have to meet up. I got the opportunity a few weeks ago to go to Kentucky, and I probably knocked out a good 7 or so drivers that have been on the show, so it's really cool to be able to not only have you guys on the show, but actually be able to sit and talk with you guys and just show our appreciation for taking your guys' time. But I definitely want to wish you luck in the rest of the season. Looking forward to next year's the next season, and hopefully you guys have a successful season. Hopefully we get you back on the show and get a little bit more in depth into your racing career and a little bit more in depth. Period. Like I said, it was kind of last second for me, as she tried to get me notified. But I want you to be able to enjoy the rest of your evening, and hopefully we get you back soon.
Okay. Thank you for having me on, and look forward to seeing you next year in Charlotte.
Yes, sir.
Take care.
Okay. Thank you.
I tell you what, that's one of those. I don't know. There's just certain careers out there, and certain. I couldn't do it. Another one I probably couldn't do, and I know this sounds stupid, and it's probably a very safe sport, but watching them as fast as they go, I don't know if I could do the bobsledding. Like that's some extreme speed and some metal and ice. Like there is no give or take. Like things don't go right. That's got to be very sore and very
Well, I remember seeing that on TV, CJ, in the Olympics, in the Winter Olympics. And I remember, and I don't know for the life of me, I can't remember who it was or from what country, but it wasn't the United States. It was one of the ones in Europe, Germany or Sweden or one of those. But they actually flipped on, it was the bobsled, like the two-man bobsled. And the sled flipped over, and the guy was like underneath it and got caught got some part of his anatomy, or fingers or hand or whatever, caught on the blade and cut like his finger and stuff, and even with gloves and protective gloves and everything. And so yeah, I could see where it would be a little bit, and they're basically riding in a tube, you know.
Yeah.
So
World Series update, top of the fifth. The Chicago Cubs up 3-0. Come on, Indians, get yourself together. We fall apart now. Before I do that, I got to make sure that I thank Fit for Life. You guys can check them out on Facebook, Fit for Life. You guys can also go to our site, www.the110nationsports.com. Right-hand side, I got a nice, beautiful banner set up for you guys. All you do is click on it, see if there's a location near you. 24/7, 365. Get your gym on. Great, clean facility, courtesy staff, everything you guys could need. Make sure you guys check them out. That is Fit for Life. I also got to thank Snafu Seasoning, the official sponsor of Racing with Big Sweat, 9 o'clock Thursday night. 100% all-natural, no preservative beet rub. Make sure you guys check them out. That is Snafu Seasoning. Also got to thank the I-95 Sports Network and Mile High Radio for rebroadcasting or syndicating our shows. Without all these great people, we would not continue to be able to grow and do what we do. Another thing that I don't think I could do is, I don't know, was it a slalom, whatever it is, where, you know, they start at the top of the hill and they ride down on the skis and then they shoot into the air and you're going for length, and I think some of them you go for tricks or whatever, but even just a length one, I couldn't imagine going down, gaining all that speed, coming down basically on ice on two skis and then shoot up in the air and then expect to land on my feet. No, that's not happening. There's no way.
Yeah. Another one for me is I've seen all kinds of people dive into a pool, you know, off a diving board, just generally, and everybody that can walk does that, I understand. But another sport that gets me is cliff diving, okay, like from Mexico and stuff, where they go off these jagged edges of cliffs, and they can't dive until the tide is right, and if they dive sooner than that, they end up on the bottom going splat, and no way. No thank you, you know.
What about those people that have those little cake things or whatever? They kind of just float down or whatever. They jump off the edge of the mountain and they kind of just float and guide down. There's no way I'd ever do that. I couldn't.
I hear you. I look at it this way. I'm already disabled, so you know. Yeah. No, it's. I think, you know, you and I being race fans, I think we both have with the bikes. I mean, we see people, you know, I know people personally that ride motorcycles. I've known them in the past on the street, and that's fine and well, you know. Just because I can't do it doesn't mean it shouldn't, you know. I mean, that's fine. But when you consider racing and you consider part of, you know, if you talk to all the drivers we have on that drive cars, okay, that race cars, they're constantly harping on the safety factor. And I know you said that the suit is like, I think you said to 240 miles an hour, but still, just the sensation of having nothing around you. I think your body would have a tendency to you know, if the idea is to stay loose and you know, stay limber and everything. So when something happens, you know, I know from certain people talking to me about certain things, you can, if you fall, you're like, you know, you remain loose, and if you don't tighten up or your body doesn't tighten up, then you have a tendency not to break things. You have, you know, as long as you stay loose. But I can't, you know, like you, I can't fathom going that speed with nothing around you. And even in a race car, you have, you know, it's been said how many times, you have the roll cage, you have everything else, the hands device, whatever, and the you know, the window net is protective, and all the stuff that's in a car. but just the idea that nothing is around your body. That freaks me out.
Another thing that I couldn't do, and I don't know if I would really call it a sport, even though it's got to do with archery. Those people that'll sit there and have stuff on their head like an apple, and let somebody take a bow and arrow. And I don't know if I could ever just shoot the bow and arrow at somebody like that. But to be that person that stands there with nothing but more than maybe an apple on the top of their head, and that's not happening. I don't know. There are just certain sports I know that there's no way that I could ever partake in certain activities, and
No.
No. What topic was we supposed to jump back into?
The Bobby Knight thing. With violence and not mistreatment of athletes too, and he got away with things that were. And the thing about the book is not so much that the kid wrote a book or the guy wrote a book. He's not a kid anymore. He graduated college. But in terms of why this book comes out now, or why it becomes part of the media now, and all this talk about violence in sports and everything, like the stories just seem. I say this as a journalist. The stories just seem to take on a certain similarity, when certain things happen. It's just ironic time for it to come out. Now, Bobby Knight, I don't even know, I think he's still a commentator on college basketball, but he's been out of coaching for years now. And all of a sudden, I remember reading this book on the 30-0 team he had back in like 76 with Ken Benson and people like that, Isaiah Thomas in college, and so forth. But then, now it comes out with this guy with the book about Bobby Knight. It's just it's the timing of the release of the book that gets me. This just came out yesterday. The book was released yesterday, and it made the the articles that I post. It made that my inbox. I'll say, it was put out by ESPN. They wrote a little something about it, and it's just it's amazing to me. And he even said in the book, the main thing of the book is he comes out and says, I wasn't trying to knock Coach Knight, but if he did things back, if a coach today, if a basketball coach, a baseball coach, whatever, did what Bobby Knight did to us years ago, they wouldn't forget about coaching basketball. They would be in jail, And how can you say, well, you weren't trying to knock Bobby Knight, but that's the whole tone of the book. It was just ironic because we're talking about, Josh Brown for the last couple of days, and here again, this book comes out of nowhere. I didn't even know, anybody was writing a book about Bobby Knight at this stage. I remember Knight wrote his own book about, about being a coach and all that, but that was back in the 70s and 80s, and this comes out now, and it just, I don't know, it just seems very strange to me. I don't know if you get the same feeling that a lot of these stories just come and like go on top of each other, and they always seem to be on the same topic or another, or a similar topic.
There's a few people in this world that I give kind of a special pass to. And drill sergeants are one of them. But since we're talking about coaches is another one. Where I feel you can get away with going a little bit farther than what a normal person should be allowed to get away with. when you talk about a coach, you're talking about someone that is not only trying to teach you how to play a sport and fine-tune your skills, but also teach you life lessons and teach you unity and teach you teamwork and teach you a lot of things. And I'm not saying what Bobby Knight has done. I don't know to what extreme, but I also know that being a former athlete and what stories that I have heard, there's a lot more I'm willing to overlook, especially when you have one coach and you've got 50 players, or even on a basketball team, you're looking at 15 players. You got one person trying to, mentor, teach a bunch of different individuals. The first year that I played football, and I played baseball before I played football, but the first year I played football, I played for a coach. His name was Tony. I played for the Pee Wee League in my town. We happened to be the Cincinnati Bengals, one team that I despised, especially at that point in time. I ended up being, playing for the Cincinnati Bengals. I played for the offensive line. Wasn't really that big of a guy, especially back then. And the way the Pee Wee League set up, I had a bunch of kids that were bigger than me. Their age gap or whatever was much bigger than when I went to play for the City League, which you were just fourth graders and fifth graders and so forth and so forth. The Pee Wee, it was set on age, so you had, a couple years, and so there was, a significant difference in some of the cases. So, but I played the offensive line, and I really didn't grasp the concept of what I was doing. And I can remember one game specifically that he did not care for my blocking skills, and I wasn't doing my job up to par. And he gave me an opportunity to run the ball because he wanted to show me what I was supposed to be doing. And I had never took a handoff, and I wish up to that point I would have taken a handoff and I wouldn't have fumbled the ball, because that offensive line blew me a hole wide open. Like I could have scored if I wouldn't have fumbled the ball. And but back to the point, like, he was one of the roughest coaches that I had ever had, and he kind of set the foundation. I feel that I was a much better player. I can remember we did what I believe he called corners, and what he did is he set up these duffel bags in a real big triangle. And the long side you had to sprint, and the short side you got to jog. And we must have ran for like an hour. Like, at that point, I'm like the only one running. I was able to do the running part of that. And I remember how physical, how rough he was. Like, nobody liked him. And you didn't really realize or appreciate at that point in time. You just thought that he was just some dick. And you didn't want to be out there, and you didn't want to do nothing, and you didn't want to perform for him. Then I got the opportunity the next year to go play for the city. And I got to play for the fourth grade team. And, it was the coach. Either one of the coach or a couple of the coaches were customers of my mother, so that's kind of how I got to know about it, and that's how I led to transferring over to the City League. And they knew a little bit about me already, and I can remember them trying me out for the offensive line, and I'm just like, this is not what I want to do. I thought this was going to be an opportunity for me to find another position, because this is not what I want to be. And one thing led to another. The next thing I know, I'm getting the opportunity to be the running back. And long story short, I ended up being the running back for the next 2 years. I even beat out the coach's son, who was twice my size, but where he didn't get the same foundation as I did. As soon as he got hit, he got in a fetal position and cried. Like, he was twice my size with a big pansy and a half. Jeffrey Fisher, I can remember his name clear as day. I ended up going on being the running back. We hardly lost any games. I scored on, my mom's got a whole book, a whole album full of clippings. Both years I was what they wanted to be on, what they called the select team. What they did was our city was so big we had 2 teams. Now, you guys got to also understand, by the time we hit high school, and I didn't continue playing football. I only played football for 3 years. Due to my mom getting pregnant, my stepfather didn't want us to play, and so we never got back into it after that. My high school line, we averaged 305 pounds. We were the biggest offensive line in the state of Ohio. It kind of tells you kind of where this program's at. Also, that's where Braxton Miller came from. They just rebuilt our high school a couple of years ago because recruiting is so big out of our school. We are now the biggest high school in the state of Ohio, and we go to the state of Ohio championship game every single year. The team we play in the actual championship game has our school, the Wayne Warriors, number. For some reason, the Wayne Warriors just not beat this team. But I went on to be chosen. Well, they chose me every year to be part of the select team, is what they call it. They combined both teams and made like the super team that traveled, and we played basically all the same teams again. But they got to put their teams together and make super teams. Now every year I end up declining it. By the time I was on the season, because I was a running back, and we hardly ever passed. This was before all this passing stuff. It was run. So I ran. I probably was about 90% of that offense. And then I also played defense. I was either defensive end, linebacker, or a cornerback, or even a safety. I was one of those positions. I kind of rotated around. And they chose me, both years to play offensive and defense. I declined, and I kicked myself in the butt for it. And when I had to step away after the 5th grade year, the 6th grade coaches actually came looking for me and basically begged me to come play. That's kind of the foundation and everything that was built. But I credit all back to my first coach when it comes to football, because he was the way he was. He instilled me to work hard and the unity. And when we was out there running, it wasn't I do all these laps and press everybody. It was it was instilled in me. You need to encourage your teammates. You need to push the rest of your team to be doing what you're doing. And so when it comes to coaches, I know I probably shouldn't have this this point of view, but I allow and kind of expect. Now, I wasn't that way as a coach, nor was the guy that was actually the head coach when I did my coaching, but I kind of expect the coaches to be a little bit meaner. I expect the coaches to be tougher. I expect the coaches to do things that, you might not let, Bob 2 doors down to get away with, or, make your kids do something physical that, Joe Schmo is not doing. Like I said, I don't know to what extent how far Bob Knight took it, but I give a little bit of the exception, a little bit of leeway when it comes to certain professions. Because, like I said, not only are you trying to teach them the sport, not only are you trying to fine-tune their skills, you also got to be strict and tough, and I think this is probably the part we were strictest and the toughest about. It's the safety of the sport, especially with football, with all these concussions, with the chances of you going into a scenario where your head's down and you're going head first into something and possibly paralyze yourself, and all the what ifs and what nots. I feel, and then you got to also instill life lessons. Coaches are not there just to teach you a game; they're also supposed to help lead you into life and kind of teach you life lessons as you're playing the sport, to kind of put those together to become the person that you grew up to be. So therefore, I kind of hold when we talk about taking tests and you grade on a curve, and the highest score is an 85, and so on a curve, that 85 turns into 100. I kind of grade, I kind of have a curve when it comes to coaches, because I feel there's a lot more pressure in the life, especially when you're talking about kids in high school and college. There's a lot more to that, and there's a lot more that goes with being a coach. Now, coaching the NFL, coaching the NBA, okay, these are grown adults. Yes, you want to keep them out of trouble and kind of still guide them through life, but they're adults at this point. They're going to make their decisions, and they're either going to listen or not going to listen. But when they're young, you get to help shape their minds and help shape them as a person. And so I want them to kind of be a little bit, have that area where they got a little bit more leeway to do what they need to do to help mold our youth and our athletes to be the better person. I think a lot of these athletes that are the way they are is because they didn't have those type of coaches. They had those coaches that basically kicked the athlete's butt because they thought, hey, I'm going to ride this athlete, this kid's coattail, because if he does good, then I look good, and so he's going to get away with everything and have bad grades, and we're going to cover it up and everything else so he's out on the field, make our program look good, make me look good. And I think that's part of what our issue is. I mean, Johnny Manziel, perfect example. But, when it comes to head coaches, I give a little bit more leeway than I do most professions or most people when it comes to dealing with our kids and high schoolers and college students and whatnot.
I get that, CJ. And the other thing, not backing off what I said, but I'll say it this way. I can see both sides. As a writer and as a journalist and a writer, I can see that I'll say 50 to 60% of these books, I've read them coming up through school too, and I always read like sports books. And one of my good classes that I really enjoyed was called Literature of Sports, where back in the 70s and 80s when these books, these athletes, even today, but even back then, would write these books, 90% of them would be by athletes that had bad experiences with the coaches. I want to read a book, and I want to read a book by an athlete who likes the coach. Now, John Wooden, as a coach, wrote a book, okay, but he was talking about the athletes, and he very rarely put an athlete down that played for him at UCLA, okay, because he had a lot of good athletes. But as far as these athletes writing the book about the coaches and the other way around, like I say, 50 to 60% of them are, had a bad experience with the coach, and that's why they wrote the book. So I can see both sides of it, and I'm waiting for a guy to write a book who would like this coach, and then, and both sides of it, and could say, okay, he did that, like you said, you could say, oh, well, he did this to us at practice, but we ended up, but we came out the other side and we saw, as an adult, I understand why you did that, That would be more of a realistic approach to me than these guys just putting the coach down because they had a bad experience. So, that being said, what I said before, I can see both sides of it as a sports fan and a writer besides. So.
World Series updates. Unfortunately, it's not looking good for my Indians. Chicago's up 5-0 in the bottom of the fifth. Cleveland has 2 outs, nobody on. Just not the same as it was last night. Starting to come off that cloud nine now. Hopefully the Indians get their act together and turn this game around before, 1, it gets out of hand, but 2, before it's over and they have to go travel to Chicago. The way the series is set up is 2 games in Cleveland, 3 games in Chicago, 2 games back in Cleveland. You really don't want to have to go to Chicago and already be down or only be up 1-1. It'd be a lot better for Cleveland if they manage to be able to travel to Chicago and have a 2-0 lead in the series. So if worst case scenario, they get to bring the series back home in Cleveland before it's wrapped up. So, like I said, hopefully the Cleveland Indians get things turned around before the end of this game. Right now, like I said, it's Chicago up 5-0 in the bottom of the fifth. Just not feeling the love that Cleveland gave us last night. Coming off of a very good day yesterday with the Indians and the Cavaliers.
I guess everybody threw themselves into that one game. You can't burn yourself out in one game. I think a lot of it was emotion last night, probably. I mean, I can't speak for the Cavaliers, like I said, and they played the Knicks, and I'm not going to say, I didn't expect the Knicks to win, so, but as far as the baseball, I mean, there's been talk about this, and you know this, CJ, being a fan. of the Cleveland Indians. There's been so much talk about it, and usually around World Series time it is, but I think this year it was even more so. And I remember when I think it was Chicago that clinched first. No, I'm sorry, it was Cleveland, and I said to you weeks ago, maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, I said, wouldn't it be something, CJ, if the Cubs and the Indians made the World Series, and we'd see who broke the drought, and 3 weeks later here we are. But there was so much of this emotion because of the two teams involved, more so than even a regular World Series. Well, I say regular, but a team that might have played in the World Series a few times. There was so much more emotion that I have to feel that both teams were playing on adrenaline more or less last night by the time they stepped on the field. So we'll see what happens when things get back down to semi-normal, emotions-wise.
Get ready to get our next guest here in the studio. I wonder if the Indians lose, how am I supposed to feel about that? I understand it's like 67 years since the Indians World Series, but we just won a championship with Cavaliers. Should I be happy with the fact that a 52-year drought for the entire city of Cleveland came to an end? Is it being greedy of me if I'm upset because if the Indians don't win it, especially knowing that the Cavaliers are looking really good to repeat? I mean, I know there's no guarantees. I'm trying to sit here and figure, should I be thankful? This wasn't a team that people were talking about at the beginning of the year to go in the World Series. Even midway through the season, it wasn't like it was a serious threat. And I didn't even think going into the playoffs, okay, the Indians made it, but I don't think anybody took it serious that they were going to make it to the World Series. And so it's kind of one of those scenarios that, okay, we weren't really picked to go to the World Series. We just brought a championship with the Cavaliers. We're riding on that high. Am I selfish to be upset if the Indians don't win a World Series? I mean, I got the Cleveland Browns that can't even win a game. I should be happy that the Indians at least made it to the World Series, even into the playoffs, especially being a Browns fan. So I'm kind of mixed emotion with this. I mean, don't get me wrong. Part of me is going to be upset, period, because I want my team to win every year. But is it being greedy of me having this kind of feelings, knowing that one of our teams brought a championship home this year, and started off this season on a high note anyway. But that's just me personally. But let's get our next guest in the show. Next guest in the show. There you go. Our next guest on the show, as Miss Lee corrected me in the relations, but I don't want this whole segment or, even most of this segment to be part of, really have to do with that. She does have family that runs in the Xfinity and Sprint Cup Series. We are going to touch a little bit about that. But more importantly, we get an opportunity to bring another great athlete onto the show, get to learn and know another great athlete, and introduce it to the 110 Nation fan base. This name has been gaining a lot of momentum as of late. She just participated in the Drive for Diversity program out there at the Combine. Looking forward to getting to know Hope, getting to know her background, what got her into the sport, what it was like after the Combine, a little bit about her season, which her plans are, and I know that all those in the Drive for Diversity program got to wait until about middle December-ish before they kind of get to make really too many serious plans, whether or not you're going to go run for Rev Racing or you're going to have to, make alternative plans. But see what she's going to do in the off season, get to know her a little bit as a person as well. So without any further delay, let's go ahead and bring our next guest on. Hope, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Hey,
Hope. Great. Glad to be here. Glad to have you on the show.
Likewise.
I want to do with you like I do with all the other athletes we get on here. I want to give you an opportunity to plug yourself, if it be social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, whatever everybody's using these days to promote themselves or just to be social. team site, personal site, sponsors, anything you want to throw out there. That way the fans and the listeners get to know you not only as an athlete, but as a person, and not only in 2016, but moving forward in your career as well.
Okay, so first of all, I'll start off with my Facebook. That is Hope Hornish Racing. And then my Twitter is Hope Hornish, and my Instagram is Hope Hornish. And my website can be found on my Facebook, or if you're not on Facebook, HornishRacingHope.wix.com/Hope8. So I know that's kind of a mouthful, so if you can check over to the Facebook page, it's all on there for you, so you can just click the link. Just like to thank my sponsors, for allowing me this opportunity. Definitely wouldn't be here without them as far as funding and things go like that for our late model program we did this year. So First Insurance, Biker Contracting, Defiance Truck Sales and Service, Stars and Stripes Firearms, Butler Real Estate, just everyone who jumped on board with us this year. Thank you very much. And if you are interested in sponsoring Hope Hornish and the 8 team next year, please email us on Facebook, or you can email us at hornishRacingHope@gmail.com.
I was sitting there thinking to myself when you said if you don't have Facebook, and I'm sitting there thinking to myself, how many people really don't have Facebook? This is 2016. Then I thought about it. My friend refuses to have Facebook. He does not want the drama. He wants nothing to do with Facebook. He refuses. He's never had Facebook. So I sat there after I thought about it. I was like, what? My best friends don't even have Facebook. So I know people, but I know one person that doesn't have Facebook. What got you into racing, and what age did you get into racing? This is always an interesting question to me, because I have a daughter that I call her my daughter. I met her when she was 2, and even at the age of 18 now, I guarantee I can put her and my son, who just turned 10 last month, at one end of the house, and by the time they get to the other end of the house, they've managed to run into 2 or 3 walls, possibly a table, maybe the edge of the couch. And in my current situation, I got a 5 and a 6-year-old that I can once again put at one end of the house and ask them to go to the other end of the house. They might not run into anything, but they're going to trip and fall 2 or 3 times to get to one together. So it always fascinates me when I hear these drivers talk about, I got in a go-kart when I was 5 or 6 or whatever age, because I got an 18-year-old, anywhere from a 5 to an 18-year-old that I would not dare put behind the wheel of anything. And it makes me real nervous knowing that my daughter's got a driver's license and she's out there somewhere. But what got you into the sports? Well, I probably have a pretty good idea, but let the fans know what got you into the sport, and at what age did you get into the sport?
Okay, so to start off, as you guys can probably guess, I got in through the family, kind of just watching my uncle go through his different series and watching him progress, and then eventually I got my first go-kart when I was 5 years old. It was a kid kart, so it's really restricted. I think it's only like 50 cc, I believe. I don't know if I'm correct on that, so sorry about that. My grandpa would put tires in the driveway, and he'd put a big barrel pipe at the end, like a tile tube at the end of the driveway, and I'd have to turn real sharp and then just do all these maneuvers, and then eventually went out in my first go-kart race when I was 8 years old, and that's when we started competing, and just kind of took off from there. I don't know, it was fun. I enjoyed it. We were good at it. Just had many opportunities within many series, purple plate, gold plate, heavies, lights, Briggs light, Briggs heavy, just those kind of series with alcohol as the gas form, regular gas. And then when I was 18 years old, we jumped into a late model. It was kind of one of those do or die things. It was like, do we want to make this a career, or do we want to just make this a hobby, and decided to pursue it as a career, and then got into a late model and ran up at Angola Motorsport Speedway in Indiana there, and ended up doing pretty well. We finished 7th in points, and we were 1 point away from Rookie of the Year, won the Hard Charger Award as well, and then we also went on this year to run the Jag Sierra Ulcers Tour, and we ran pretty well all season long, winning my first late model race in a B main, the Jags Challenge 30 at Berlin Raceway, and so that kind of really helped propel my career as well. And it definitely is a great feeling when you get back to victory lane after not being there all year. Even though it's just heat races and stuff you may have won, it's not the same as a main event. And then got into the NASCAR Drive for Diversity Driver Combine and had a blast down there. And now we're here waiting to see what we do for next year.
Now, I know you said at 18, you guys kind of made the decision, hobby or profession. But at what age did it click in your head that I'm good at this? This is what I want to do. There's no doubt in my mind that either I want to make a career out of this or I'm going to make a career out of this.
I think that was right from the beginning. It was just fun racing around the driveway against myself. I used to talk to myself, too, and you could definitely hear me talk to myself over the motor because it wasn't that much horsepower. So my family was just out in the driveway laughing at me because I could hear me talk to myself, announcing to myself and what I was, going through in my mind. And then when we actually got against competition, that's when it really clicked, and it was the first sure thing that I knew I could go reach this dream if I wanted to. I just had to put forth that effort. And I wrote a letter in 6th grade. I had a teacher. She made us write letters of what we wanted to be when we're older. And a lot of kids do write professional athletes and everything as well. And it's just funny, I got my letter on graduation day a year ago or so, and it said, I want to become a professional race car driver, and here I am still chasing that same dream. Many kids don't think they could still go and chase that same dream that they put down in 6th grade. So to have that opportunity has just been a complete blessing.
I don't think I ever had a career that was my dream. I try to think back, and honestly, until 6 years ago when I got into this, I had no idea. I did good at bouncing. I did good at being a general manager at different places. I was good at it, but this is, my true calling. But I can't, and it is good. I'm glad to hear there's people out there that at a young age had already in their mind what they wanted to do, and they pursued it. And it kind of leads me into the next question. How difficult growing up as a race car driver and trying to maintain a life, because it's not like you're like me growing up playing football and baseball, where you just went to the local baseball field or the local football field. You got to travel to different tracks, and not only that, you got family in the sport, and so you got all that going on. You got things going every which direction, and then you're trying to maintain high school and have a social life and all that stuff. How difficult was that growing up and trying to balance and everything, having somewhat a normal, and I say that in quotes, normal kid life, but also pursuing your dream and doing what you enjoy and the dedication and the sacrifices that had to be made at the same time?
That's actually a really good question, because throughout growing up and everything, my mom always made sure I got a chance to try every kind of sport. So I did play 3 sports in high school, plus race on top of that, and that was definitely half the reason why we stayed in go-karts and didn't move to late models fast enough. My mom always asked me, could I give up everything to go run go-karts all over the place? And I'm like, no, not yet. And then we ended up testing in a modified the fall semester of my senior year, and I finally got out of the car. I'm like, yeah, I can hang up everything. I can hang up the cleats, the mitts, the basketball, the golf clubs. Like, I can hang it all up now. I know what I want to go do. Thanks for putting me in a big car now. I actually can sit here and tell you I'll quit everything, so we should have done that a little bit sooner, I guess.
God, where was I about to go? Oh, not telling you, I want to get into the combine, something separate. Leading up to the combine, what was the most memorable moment or the greatest accomplishment that you had achieved? Maybe the trophy that sits highest on the show, or when you're sitting back around the bonfire, kicking old memories. And I say that in you're young, so there's not so many memories, but you're having a good time talking about great times. What are a couple of the better moments you throw out there and reminisce about already?
The better times already, I don't know. I guess one is just being thankful that my family, I have a supportive family that are willing to help chase dreams with me. So that's a big key, especially in the racing business, because you do have a lot of lows instead of highs, which when the highs do come, like I said, the Jegs Challenge 30 was definitely a good reflective moment. Also, the best thing that sticks out from me is that race was a 100-lap race for the Jegs All-Stars Tour, and I didn't qualify into the race because I was still learning the process of qualifying on slick tires. meaning non-tread. And so I didn't qualify into that race and really picked myself back up, and we went out there and we won by a good margin and everything. So that was just a good moment to realize, like, hey, you could have qualified in that race. You got to go get it next time, and then we ended up doing that. Also, just all the learning things, too. It's awesome to de-stress and reevaluate everything that takes place in a weekend and come back the next weekend with a better game plan, a better situation, just all the different aspects of racing that you could think of, being the better you as far as, like, making sure you're working out and, making sure you're talking to your sponsors. And that was just a really fun part for me this year. I really also enjoy the fan part. So I did a 50-mile bike ride for Make-A-Wish up here in Michigan. And so I had to raise money for Make-A-Wish as well. And the fans came in huge with that as well. And Angola Motorsports Speedway did helmet pass for me, and they did 50-50, and we ended up raising about $1,005 for Make-A-Wish in less than 3 weeks. And then I ended up doing the 50-mile bike ride, all of it, and it was just so fun because then we got to hang out with Wish kids and stuff afterwards, which is just a crazy blessing to get the opportunity to race every Saturday night, and especially to get accepted into the Combine was another huge opportunity because we ended up taking a break at the end of the year to reevaluate what exactly we're doing and where our goals wanted to go. We didn't even finish off the regular season, and we just kind of stopped a little bit early, especially with me going back to college and things like that. And so just had that time to reevaluate, and I knew my application was into Rev Racing, and so I was just waiting to hear back from that, and we got the opportunity. And for a while there, I was like, is this really where God's taking me? Is this really the goal that I'm going to chase? And then to get accepted in the driver's combine, which is huge because it's like, yes, I know I'm here. I know I'm meant to be here. I know I need to go figure out what I need to do to get to that top level, which is hopefully the Sprint Cup level one day.
I have two quick questions. Just in the matter of, your uncle and so forth, because he was in so many, different series, did you have any aspirations to go Indy racing at any time?
That's actually a common question too as well. I definitely like the Indy cars. I like the speed of them. Of course, they're fast. I did some two-cycle go-kart racing just around road courses and things like that, which was definitely a blast. I like road courses. I feel like the right way, though, to go right now is through the late model things like that, especially with the opportunity that Rev Racing has with them for the Drive for Diversity program. And I feel like just right now the late model stuff in the stock car is really taking off. But if I do have a chance, I would definitely love to be in an Indy car one day. Just, I want to run the 500, and I want to run a couple of the road courses. I want to go to Kansas and race as well. That was one of them that I would always travel to every summer. It's like my vacation is going to Kansas, watching the race, and then we'd watch the fireworks on the way home. And so, I would definitely like to get over there and race a couple of those races. But, I think right now my main focus is on stock car. But if an opportunity comes above to be a professional athlete in racing, whether it is in a different series than NASCAR, that's okay. But right now I'm kind of hoping everything works out in the stock car world just because it's a lot of fun, and a lot of the competition that we see over here in the stock car is just so young and so talented that you're really getting the best of the best when you compete against them, and to really put yourself out there every weekend and, allowing you to learn something. That's the huge key. Are you learning? Are you continuing to learn? How's the best way we can learn, especially with car handling, car control, and so, but yeah, no, if there's an opportunity about IndyCar, things like that, I've looked into a couple of programs that go that way as well. Like I said, though, huge opportunity with Rev Racing right now, and I guess we'll just wait till December.
Right. And one other question regarding the Drive for Diversity program. I was just wondering if they, I know the recent one that you were at was at New Smyrna, Florida. Do they have, does the Drive for Diversity have outings at different tracks so they get used to different layouts, or is it just the one track that they're at right now?
I believe they were at Langley Speedway last year, and that's where it was regularly held. And so I think this year was the first switch to New Smyrna. So I don't know if they plan to go back to New Smyrna next year or what they have in store, but I've never been to New Smyrna, so it's kind of a huge opportunity for me to go down there, especially with the Snowball Derby coming up and Speed Week and everything else like that. I've heard everyone talk about the track, and it's a great facility, and I really liked it down there, so I'll be down there to race someday or, in some race.
Right. No, I was just wondering if they had switched around or, if that was what they generally do to give you, or not you personally, but anybody in the program, exposure to the different layouts or what the situation is. And obviously you answered it by saying, they just switched this year and you don't really know what they're going to do. And so it'd be interesting. It'd be interesting to watch and see what they do from here on out.
Exactly. It was my first year in the program, too, as well, so kind of new to the whole Drive for Diversity program, but like I said, I believe it was at Langley, and then they just moved to New Smyrna, so I don't know if they're going to change it up for next year. I guess that's a good question.
Okay. You and I can both watch it then.
Yeah, exactly.
How big of a deal was it for you to get selected? I mean, personally, what did it mean to you that NASCAR selected you and Rev Racing selected you to be part of this program? I believe I saw in the 12th year that has helped produce some of NASCAR's biggest names, such as Kyle Larson, Bubba Wallace, and so forth, and the upcoming stars that it's helped produce.
Yeah, it's a crazy honor. Like I said before, I was at a really questioning point of, what were we going to do next year? What were we going to look at? And then just to get that opportunity and to see someone else believe in myself, besides the family and besides, my own feelings and things like that. It was definitely recognized for all the hard work that we put into everything we do every week in and out. And so, like I said, it's just a huge honor once again, and I can't be more thankful for Rev Racing and NASCAR for this opportunity through the Drive for Diversity program. It was also cool because I haven't been around a lot of female racers as well, and there was 13 of us down there. So it's kind of cool to be with other women in the sport and to really pick their brain about what they do, because we all come from different backgrounds of racing. And so to get Haley Deegan's perspective of the off-road, or to get sprint car drivers' ideas and things like that as well, is just very huge.
Yes, I've seen quite a few familiar faces. I know there was a good 4 or 5 of those ladies that we've had on the show, Hannah being one, Allie Kern, Amber Balkin, some very talented drivers. And it's got to be a really cool thing to be able to hang out with other drivers that, are kind of in the same shoe that you're in, and kind of be able to get their experiences and just kind of, use each other as sponges and just absorb what you guys can from each other and kind of work on developing your own careers. One, for those that don't know anything about the Drive for Diversity program, what do you guys do out there? And then you personally, what did you take away from this? What did you maybe learn this at the combine that maybe you took back mentally that, okay, maybe I need to try this or work on this, or that was a great idea. Maybe, this is something that, I need to look into, and maybe this will help me, improve what I'm already doing.
Yeah, for sure. So when I flew in Sunday, and then we went to the hotel and things like that and checked in, and then we woke up Monday morning and we went to the headquarters at Daytona and sat in there and had our opening meetings with the vice president and a couple other people, and it was just cool to actually hear those guys speak and to see them in person and get to meet them. It's only a name and a face until you actually get to shake the hand and see the face and talk to the face. So that was also a really cool aspect that, I'm thankful that Rev Racing had. And then after that, we went to Bethune-Cookman University and did a media portion where we got to sit up on a panel and, just conducted interviews with people from the audience and things like that as well.
and also encountered some tough questions that, maybe us drivers haven't heard before, or the less common questions, just so we're prepared for them. And then we moved into the workout portion, which was just a series of physical tests to make sure, you are doing your part as the driver and testing your abilities and making sure you're fit and healthy to perform the jobs every week in the car. And then Tuesday, we moved to New Smyrna Speedway, and we did the track testing. We each had 2 sessions of 10 laps, and you just go out there and you run as hard as you can, and you do the best as you can. And, they didn't really tell us exactly what they were looking for, just, go out and do what we do and improve every lap we go out there, and also improve the next session. And it was just awesome experience like that as well. They had a simulator there as well of New Smyrna. They put New Smyrna on the simulator, which I've never been on a simulator like that. So that was a cool experience as well to, really look at. That's one thing that maybe I should look into a little bit and see if I can't find a simulator closer to us, and to see if it's even doable as an option. Also definitely up the workouts a little bit more. It was definitely cool to see where Rev Racing wanted you at physically, and if you could beat that or, equal that, and just the detail to minor work is very crucial, and making sure you're getting better every time you're at the track and really from the sessions. So how can you download all your information from your mind that you learned in the first session to the second session? So I think that's some key points that I'll definitely have, and that I've definitely gone through already and taken a look at, past races and past stats and things like that. Is what can I do different? What can I do better? How can I be better? So just that always inquisitive question of how can I do better? How can I be better? Just all the way around.
How difficult is it for you guys to be patient, as you guys have to wait until mid-December or so before you find out kind of what your 2017 plans are? Like, being part of this program, with this being a sponsor-driven sport, and like trying to lay out the next year as far out as you can because of the expenses and the travel and everything else, being part of this combine and knowing what the possibilities are, now you kind of got to wait until December before you can really make any permanent plans, because if you get selected, then that kind of throws everything else to the side, and you got to kind of fit that in. Versus if you don't make it, then you got to look for your full-time opportunity elsewhere, and then work around that.
Yeah, definitely. I don't think we really stop, though. Once the racing season's over, we go right back at it as, reevaluating our proposals and things like that we hand out to sponsors. The sponsorship never stops. It never ends. That's what really propels our sport now, is just the money backing you, and sponsorship is crucial. And, for all my sponsors out there, thank you for the support. And, like I said earlier, if you want to sponsor, go ahead and shoot us an email or a message. We'd love to have you on board with us for the 2017 season. Just because, it is a good opportunity through Rev Racing as well. It's cool to bring your own sponsors, too, to the team as well. So it just adds more marketability. That way, when you do make it into the next series, you have someone that's going to be right there, like Daniel has, and Kyle Larson has, and Bubba definitely has. And so, they got their sponsors by keep going and keep digging and, keep looking for that next sponsor, and to definitely help with their business and promote it as well. And as far as the racing part goes for next year, definitely keep your eyes open and just making sure you're talking to everyone, and, especially if you're talking to teams and things like that, keeping the communication open, just so you guys all know. You don't know till December. You don't know what you're doing. You can't finalize anything till January almost, because by the time you finally find out what's going on, that's your moment to say, okay, do we have the money to go run this series that we want to? Do we have the money to go run this series? Do we have the money, to put tires on the car every weekend and things like that? So it definitely doesn't stop. We all have an idea of how much our seasons are going to be and what we want to do, and rev racing is just an awesome bonus and an awesome opportunity through NASCAR and the Drive for Diversity Combine that, you just keep planning and, if things work out, in a positive way for you, then you go ahead and you go with that opportunity. And if not, hopefully you've been working a little bit harder in the off season, especially this October, November time into December. So that way, if luck doesn't fall your way or if you aren't chosen, you still have that plan. That way you're not left out.
But I want to go back one to the beginning of your point real quick. I think one more question or one more section I want to get into. When you're talking about you continue on with the sponsorship, I understand that part of it, but I'm assuming that the package, the sponsor package, it's going to be different when you're getting more visibility over at Rev Racing versus maybe your late model program that's going to be a bunch of local tracks. How do you approach it differently, or how do you approach the sponsorship side of it when you're for the next 2 months? What tracks you're going to be going to, kind of what exposure you're going to get to versus the cost? Because, like I said, I'm assuming it's going to be a different amount and different. So how do you guys approach that? How does that differ from a normal season? To wait for that 2 months that normally you would already be, hitting the ground and already for sure kind of an idea where you're going.
Yeah, definitely. Just making sure your sponsors know as well, sit down with them and be like, we understand, if you want to wait till we have a final answer, and we'll let you know in December, what the outcome is and how we can work with you better. And so just being completely honest and open, like I said, and having that open communication between your sponsors and really letting them know that you can't help that you don't know till December. And, if it was us drivers, we'd like to know right now. That way we can go ahead and make those plans. But unfortunately we don't. But that's part of the game as well, is how patient can we be, I guess. And so, like I said, just be honest and have open communication and, talk to your sponsors. You definitely have in mind kind of when you go to sponsors how you're already seeing, how the season's going to play out. I feel like a game plan is in the minds of all drivers and where we want to go and what we want to do and what's actually feasible and what's not feasible. So I just, like I said, I can't repeat it, more and more. So just honesty and open communication.
But last little bit I'm going to get into real quick before we get you out of here. Having your uncle, and for those that don't know, Sam Hornish Jr. is her uncle. Having someone that has participated and has gotten to the levels that he has gotten in all forms of racing, does that add more pressure to you trying to live up to that name? Is it an advantage to you because you have somebody that has had the success they have had, and have an ear to kind of get advice from? How does that help or possibly hurt you having someone that already carried that name through the sport already?
Yeah, definitely it's an advantage when it comes to the advice that he has to offer. He can, he's been in one of the cars. He's been around the tracks. He can definitely help me with that experience as well and what I need to do on and off the track between sponsors, just watching film and things like that of races. And, if I have any questions about, what's different on the Cup side versus the Xfinity side, or what's different from the Sprint Cup to the K&N cars, or the Xfinity from the K&N cars, or even the trucks, to the late models and things like that. So just kind of seeing that difference and, listening to his advice about that also definitely helps when it's coming up through, it's a recognizable name already, and I can't thank him enough, and with all of his accomplishments as well, it's awesome. I'm so happy for him and everything with 500 win and runner-up in the Xfinity and the Cup starts and everything else. Like, it's all a huge opportunity just because, I've watched him and his successful career, but I also feel like it's the distinction of it was his career, now it's my career. It's my career. It's not a conjoined career. It will never be a joint career. It's his career, and now I'm starting to build mine. And So I feel like moving forward, I do have his experiences and things like that I can go off of as well. But just making a name, I want to make a name for myself. And really, I want to be a great driver. I want to be, I want to have my own successes, and I want to be Hope Hornish because of the things I've done. I love, like I said, I love all of his accomplishments, and I'm so proud of him for all of his accomplishments. But I'm ready to have a few of my own, and hopefully some more.
Playing off what CJ was asking you, though, I have another question regarding that. As far as the name, as far as, you mentioned that it's a separate career and so forth, but is there additional jealousy because of people may thinking wrongly, I'm not saying they're right, that you getting breaks because of the name that somebody else might not get?
I don't think that's necessarily the case. I feel like, it eventually goes into how much work you're putting on and off the track, on and off the from on to off seasons, and definitely what you're doing on the track. I feel like it definitely, it doesn't hurt it, but I also think it's a lot based on what you can do as the individual person, not what has that person done ahead of you. And so, I feel like sometimes people can portray that in jealousy as far as it might come across that way, but until you really get to know the person and really get to look at everything they've done and throughout their lifetime and who they really are as an individual person, I feel like that goes away a lot.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's what I was trying to say. Like in the beginning, there might be jealousy, but then, and it might open doors for you, but you got to stay there on your own talent. So
exactly.
That's where you disprove that.
Mhm.
One final question. I'm going to get you out of here. Outside of the Sprint Cup Series, obviously winning the championship in the Sprint Cup Series is every driver's dream, and so that's not going to be included. Short of that, if it be an Xfinity Series championship, Camping World Championship, A&N Pro, Rookie of the Year in any of these series, it don't matter. If you got the opportunity, short of the Sprint Cup Series, to either ahead of time pick the opportunity to win in one of the other series, championship, Rookie of the Year, whatever, or having an opportunity to race on any of the big three series with Sam out there and have an opportunity to be out the track with him in an event, what would you choose?
Definitely not Iowa. He's really good at Iowa and everywhere else, so he definitely has.
Well, would you choose having an opportunity to have, a Sprint Cup race, Xfinity Series race, whatever the case may be, with him and get the experience of being out there with family, or would you rather have a championship outside of the Sprint Cup Series?
I feel like, you can always win a championship. I feel like that opportunity, though, with the family, definitely having everyone out there, I feel like it would be huge. It'd definitely be cool to go around some of his favorite tracks to see why they're his favorite tracks, and definitely watch his line and, definitely see just exactly why he likes that track and all. And so, I don't know, I guess it's a family bond a little bit just to see what it's like bring your kid to work day or kind of one of those things. I feel like that's what it would turn into. So it'd just kind of be like a little shadow following you around the whole entire day.
Well, Hope, I definitely want to thank you for coming on. It has been fun, and it's hard to believe it's been almost 40 minutes, too. It's amazing how quick it goes by sometimes. I want to wish you the best of luck. Hopefully you get that phone call in the middle of December saying you're going to be part of Rev Racing. Either way, we're definitely going to be keeping up with you and keeping an eye out to see what 2017 brings. Hopefully we get you back sometime before the season starts to see what the plans are and see what you're going to be doing. But we definitely want to wish you the best of luck and look forward to having you back, and hope you enjoy the rest of your night.
Yes, thank you guys for having me on as well, and thank you for your questions and everything. I've appreciated everything and this opportunity for the fans to get to know me a little bit better and to let you guys get to know me, and I look forward to talking to you before 2017.
Yes, ma'am. You have a great night.
You too.
Take care.
Bye.
Wow, that was fun. Like two new guests to the show, and a 12-year vet in NHRA, and then you got an up-and-coming NASCAR driver. Like, it don't get much better than that. Got Shorty on the show. We got to do our NFL picks. We got to talk about an 18-year-old out there playing with 13 and 14-year-olds. The Josh Brown, and whether or not we're holding athletes to a different standard. We don't hold ourselves or our friends or our family to. All the different things tonight. Dang on Cleveland Indians. God, give me a break. We was like in the 6th inning. I'm going to give you guys an update real quick. Last time I looked, I think it was in the 6th. We were down 5-1. Let's see what we're at now. Still down 5-1 there on the top of the 7th. Cleveland's really got to get the rally caps going. I got to make sure that I thank Miss Lee for making all this possible. All these great guests we had on this week have to do with Miss Lee. Don't have any guests as of right now lined up. I ain't seen an email, but we ain't been seeing those emails until into the weekend. So usually we don't know until Saturday or Sunday anyway. Got to thank Mike for joining me every night, hanging out. Looking forward to hanging out with him Friday night. Hot Laughs with Stats, 8 o'clock. Make sure you guys tune in for that. All the great guests we've had on this week, Izzo to include, Shorty coming on and doing a special guest appearance. Got to thank Fit for Life, Snafu Seasoning, I-95 Sports Network, Mile High Radio for helping make all this possible. First week of 3-hour shows went great. Overtime, 2 of the shows. So obviously we still got some expanding we need to do. Make sure you guys follow us on Twitter at 110Nation. Follow me at CJ Sports 1. Follow Mike at Stats 108. Check us out on Facebook. My personal fan page, Mr. CJ Sports. The 110 Nation fan page, 110 Nation Sports. Mike's fan page, Hot Laughs with Stats. Also check out our site, www.110nationsports.com for all the latest forward on here at the 110 Nation. Don't forget, Monday through Wednesday, you can catch the 110 Nation Sports Show. Kicks off at 7 o'clock. We got Rubbinus Racing, 6 o'clock on Mondays over on the Spreaker platform. You can catch Racing with Big Sweat Thursday night, 9 p.m. You can also catch Hot Laughs with Stats Friday nights at 8 p.m. And then on Saturdays, we got the Happy Hour Garage. Make sure you guys check out all those great shows as everybody does a great, phenomenal job. Listeners, I got to thank you guys. Without you guys, we wouldn't be here doing this almost 6 years, going strong, consistently and constantly growing. Got to thank you all. Got to thank all those that are like us over on Facebook and that are catching us that way as we continuously grow over there, Twitter as well. Just got to thank everybody and for everything they do. Racing with Big Sweat, 9 o'clock. Make sure you guys tune in. Great guests, great show. So then, you guys go.
Thanks for listening to the 110 Nation Sports Show with Mr. CJ Sports. You are a part of the 110 Nation, so be sure to visit the 110nation.com for everything related to the show. You can follow CJ on Twitter at 110Nation and on Facebook at 110 Nation Sports. Until next time.